All right. Welcome, one and all, to a returning, after 1 week off, Xbox 2 podcast. I am one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, the man with the million. I want to make sure I need to double check to see that there's no music playing like there was during the beginning of of Xbox 2+1. So what's going on, everybody? Thank you for being here. We have a lot to cover, and I couldn't do this without my co-host. We have Jez Corden from Windows Central in the house. What's going on, buddy?
Way! Hello, man. It's it's the first time we've had a week off in a long time, I feel like. And you had the flu, didn't you?
Yeah. Like I woke up that day to get ready for the show, and I was out of it, bro. I had body chills. I had headaches. I had I had a fever. I was running a fever, so I took some tests to see if I had the C word, and I didn't. So I was just I just wasn't in a position to really do the show. So I was like, all right, we'll try for Monday. And then Monday happened, and I still wasn't feeling good. So I was like, all right, we're just gonna not do the show. But then we did do Xbox 2+1 with Paul Tassi on Tuesday, which I thought was a really interesting conversation with Paul.
So, yeah, Paul's an insightful guy, a very, smart dude. So that was a really cool show. It was really cool to get Paul on.
Yeah.
And discuss it with him. That's up on Patreon now, but it's going to go public in a couple of days, sometime next week.
Yes.
Up on my channel at jez.c. So be sure to check that out, either on Patreon or for free next week.
Yeah. But in the meantime, since we missed a week, we got a lot to talk about because
we do.
I mean, there wasn't too much the week before, but now you combine everything that happened this past week, where the Game Awards drama and everything that happened with Jeff Keighley and the Oscars of gaming, as they call it, and then what was trending on Twitter, Xbox tax, the Xbox tax. And that became a dominant sort of conversation. What is Xbox tax? Is it real? Is it make believe? Those sort of things, those sort of discussions, and everybody has a strong opinion about it. Some people say it's completely made up. The fanboys are just coping that Xbox doesn't do better. Some people have been like, no, it's absolutely real. Look at these examples. People are making videos that, it's just is it real? Is it not? What does it entail? What does it mean? I figured we'll obviously talk about everything that's happened recently. So if you guys could do us a huge favor, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a lot. We're almost at 102,000. So please also hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And, Thanksgiving's this upcoming week, Jez. It's on Thursday. So I figured I'd ask you, at least Thanksgiving in the U.S. Well, I mean, we're still going to do a show on Friday, right?
See, it's funny, right? Because Thanksgiving for you guys is a celebration. But for me, it's the worst time of year.
Is it?
Because it's Black Friday.
Yes, Black Friday is the next day. And that means we have to do a podcast, though, that day.
Yeah, we have to do a podcast, but I also have to do deal shifts. Where, writing millions of deal articles.
Well, that's why you just got to get Sam Tolbert and Jen to do those. You know what I mean? Just being like, all right, Jen,
man. It's time to do some deck, bro.
It's time to do some deals, some Amazon deals.
For us, it's Black Friday month. Like back in the day, it was like, oh yeah, Black Friday's just one day. And then it was like, oh no, now the Cyber Monday. And now it's Black Friday weekend.
I know. It was Black Friday deals already started. Like it's literally like Black Friday is begun
month now.
Do you have any
Black Friday month, bro?
Do you have any things you want to get for Black Friday week, I guess I'd ask what do you get the man that has everything? You know, what do you get Jez, the man who has, you know, well, the
Well,
only
I'm
thing,
saving money right now. I'm
yeah,
saving money.
saving money.
I'm probably not going to buy anything, but there are some pretty nifty deals. If you or you know someone who's interested in buying an Xbox Series S or Series X, you might want to hold off.
Yeah,
'Cause,
what are their deals?
you're-
It's like $50 off the Series X and S. Although Series
yeah,
X has some
$50
other a lot of like other deals as well. I
bundles.
saw. I think
There's a
controllers
lot
are
of stuff coming down the
discounted.
pipeline. Yeah,
There's a whole like Xbox has this whole Xbox Wire thing about things to, you know, that are happening
yeah.
around it.
There might be some retailers as well that go off script and try and do their own special deals. So like keep an eye on retailers that you wouldn't expect for Xbox stuff, like Dell. The Dell store often has really good Xbox deals. Walmart as well. So yeah, I'll be covering all that stuff while you're stuffing your face full of turkey or whatever it is that you eat.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm
some
gonna ask
turkey.
you, since we're doing the show after Thanksgiving, I was kind of curious. What are you thankful for, Jazz?
What am I
What is
thankful
Jez
for?
Corden thankful for?
I'm thankful for the acquisition of Blizzard this year. I'm
Not
thankful for
Activision. You're thankful for the acquisition of Blizzard.
yeah, I don't care about that Activision bit. Yeah, getting Bobby Kotick exit stage left. Yeah, he's getting loads of money. But if that's what it takes to save my beloved Blizzard, so be it. That's what I'm thankful for this year. Oh, and I suppose all the rest of it, you know, having health, all
Yeah.
that secondary stuff.
Good
None of that
friends.
stuff matters. It's all about Blizzard.
Good friends, great community, like everybody in the Xbox 2 community. You know.
Yeah,
Great,
the awesome
grateful.
Xbox 2 community.
I think it's great that the first thing you're thankful for is Blizzard. You know. So yeah, I'm thankful for.
I'm just
for
riding the
Blizzard.
high right now, man. I'm still coming down off BlizzCon, man. Honestly, I did a guest podcast with the World of Warcraft podcast yesterday on Shackled Fury. If you are into Blizzard stuff, go and check that out. It's a small little podcast, but really cool guy on Shackled Fury. Awesome show. He's a really cool dude, and we were just getting into it, talking about BlizzCon and stuff. So it's still fresh in my mind, man. It's still fresh in my mind. The whole stuff surrounded that and the future, and yeah, I'm pretty happy. We were talking about how like it was sort of almost like a recap of like just covering the news cycle about the acquisition, the regulatory drama, and it made me realize how happy I am that it's all over. You know, even if it like hadn't gone through, it was getting so tiresome covering the back and forth about all that stuff. So glad it's over, and yeah, I suppose that's what I'm thankful for.
I saw somebody in chat saying, "Man, not thankful for Rand." I see, Jazz. That's what Jodicus says. I did notice that. I kind of got the short shrift on this. You know,
definitely not thankful for Rand.
Definitely, yeah,
definitely not.
Definitely not. Not thankful for Jazz. Not thankful for Rand. Of course.
Oh man, we have nothing like Thanksgiving in England. You take what you can get. You
I mean, we got Thanksgiving. We got the holiday where we decimated the British.
When did that happen?
I mean, July 4th, 1776, bro. Celebration, you know, of America's independence. Because we just
decimated.
Yeah, we showed those Brits what's up. They lost that war, bro. Because
I think Britain let America win. I think.
Remember when the British Empire was like almost the entire world, and now it's just a tiny island? Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, we do have a lot to talk about. So we are gonna transition to some, the housekeeping bits where,
away from history.
Yeah. But we do have a wonderful sponsor for the show as usual, right, Jez?
Yes, we do, and it's the illustrious Manscaped. And Rand, we have a festive ad read for Manscaped because we are getting closer and closer to that special time where you might be considering buying gifts for yourself or loved ones in your life. So what better gift to get them than the gift of shaved balls.
Yes.
Indeed. It's Merry Ballsmas from our friends over at Manscaped. The holidays are approaching, but what if I told you that the celebrations are starting a little early this year? It turns out that the perfect gift does exist, and who else to bring it down your chimney than the leaders in below-the-waist grooming? Manscaped. Keep calm and let your balls jingle this season with Manscaped's brand new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra Performance Package 5.0, featuring the new Lawnmower 5.0. Watch all your wishes and mistletoe kisses come true. Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultra echoes is the ultimate bundle for the man who deserves it all. Included in special sack is the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, the Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose trimmer, Manscaped's liquid formulations, and 2 free gifts. Ooh. Help yourself or your loved ones look their best when you're going naughty this holiday season by going to manscaped.com and dropping the code XB2 in the checkout for 20% off, free worldwide shipping, and unwrap the gift of smoothness. Unwrap. You don't want to rip your balls. Don't do that.
No. You definitely don't want to do that.
No, you definitely don't. And thanks to Manscaped's patented ball guard technology, there'll be none of that with any of Manscaped's products. Unwrap the gift of smoothness this holiday season with Manscaped. And thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Yes, Rand, Manscaped has a new performance package 5.0 with a brand new 5.0 lawnmower, their flagship product, all about shaving those naughty bits.
The naughty bits. And I also got an email from them that it's Black Friday's on for them too right now. So you get a whole bunch of savings.
So you get double savings.
And more with the code XB2.
Yeah. Great gifts. You know, it's a fun gift. It's a bit quirky and a bit different. So yeah, definitely give it a look in. And it supports us as well. So big thanks to Manscaped, as always.
But also, we have the wonderful people at patreon.com/XB2 who support what we do. We have some shout-outs here. We have Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, Peter B., James Wiseau, Trickstar for Trade, the grandest of Bip, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Moronic Donkey, 99, Makazilla, Randall Thor 19, Silas, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Fantasticals, Halo is the GOAT, K-Trax, Bright Tundra 1, Eye of 5 Cats, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, Sean Kramer, PB Broking, Ace of Teen Madison, Untidy Tim, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Walgerman Achievement, The Scarecrow Run 21, Darren Tropey, Prof JJJ, Ghostface Killer, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys for all your support throughout the year since we started doing the show. Jez, you were talking about doing a... because this show's about the Game Awards drama and what we think about all the sort of stuff that's going on there. But also, you had an idea that you wanted to do an Xbox 2 Game Awards show, but basically have the votes be from all the Patreon members, right?
Yes, indeed. And that also includes the free members, because now on Patreon, you can follow the Patreon without paying any money. You can just follow the Patreon and you can get like some of our updates. It's a good way to get updates if you're not on Twitter and stuff. So even if you don't want to, drop any money, that's completely fine. You can just download the app and follow patreon.com/XB2 without spending any money. And so one of the things I was going to do is that for people who sign up, and maybe like through the Discord as well, I was going to do a survey. I'm going to survey the whole Xbox 2 audience for what their top, 8 games of the year were. Like, what was the Game Awards? 6?
Yeah, it's like most categories are 5, unless there's a tie and there's a 6th. But the game of the year is 6 places. Yes.
Right. Okay. So we'll do it like the Game Awards. We'll have 6. We'll let people vote for their 6 games of the year, and then what we'll do is we'll tally them all up, and then we'll announce them in a very special Xbox 2 Ultimate Game of the Year edition on my channel and on Patreon. So yes, we're going to do that in the future, and it will be very enlightening and interesting to see if like the audience matches up with the
And
Game Journal Pro.
And I think you said we're at least planning on doing that on the 28th, right? So before
Yeah,
the
something
Game
like
Awards.
before the
And
Game Awards. Yeah,
yeah. And
I'll probably get the surveys out this weekend.
yeah,
So like either
we're
on
gonna
Discord or on Patreon, we'll figure it out.
we're gonna be reaching out to some Xbox 2+1 guests as well. We're gonna try to get a couple more because the holidays are coming and people are busy and stuff. But we're gonna at least try to get two more
Yeah.
in before the end of the year, essentially. And then it's 2024, baby. It's almost here, and who knows
Can't
what that
believe it,
brings.
man.
So thank you to all the Patreons. Thank you to Manscaped for supporting the show. And yeah, so.
Get into it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot here we can talk about. But we do have just a couple super chats, so this won't take very long. So I'll get through these really quickly.
It's super chatted up.
Yeah, we got Supernova saying, in what dimension Rand will play Pokemon? I believe in all dimensions, in every possible infinite multiverse, there is not a single one where Rand enjoys or plays Pokemon. Well, that's not true. He may have to play Pokemon because I did it here, but he certainly didn't enjoy it.
Willingly
There is no universe, no multiverse out there where Randall Thor 19 is willingly playing and enjoying Pokemon. It's just not happening. So I'm sorry to disappoint you on that one. We got Face 23 BKNY. He says Spider-Man 2 #1 for October. NPD and #4 best-selling game of 2023, beating Mario Wonder, Starfield, and Multiplats only on one platform. Why are people surprised Spider-Man 2 would be a Game of the Year nominee, critical and commercial success? I mean, I don't think anybody's...
Were people surprised about that?
I don't think so. I mean, Spider-Man...
I remember you predicting that.
I mean, Spider-Man 2 was the easiest prediction for Game of the Year, as well as something that was going to be commercially successful. The first game from 2018 sold like 20 plus million. And so you knew this one was going to sell, we don't know how much it will sell in total, but we knew it was going to sell a lot. And it was like, well, of course it's also going to be nominated for Game of the Year. I mean, I said that last year. I was like, Spider-Man 2 comes out in 2023, it's going to be nominated. And I said Zelda 2, and I think I picked 4 of the 6 games last year before because it's super easy. It's kind of super easy to predict Game of the Year contenders, and then in the nominees, it's not very difficult. I'm not sure commercial success has anything really to do with like nominations. It's more how well it's received and how many people play it, which, I mean, I guess how many people play it is commercial success, but not in the way you would think, because it's just more critics playing it. But yeah, there's no surprise there. I mean, everybody knew Spider-Man 2 was going to sell extremely well, and it has. Although it seems to have lost the title of best-selling PlayStation first-party game, though. Sony was very quick to point out that it sold 2.5 million in one day, saying it was the fastest-selling first-party game. But then the other comparisons were different days and different amounts. And now it's sold like 5 million in 11. But God of War Ragnarok sold 5.1 in 5 days. So it seemed to have lost its fastest selling. But then again, God of War Ragnarok was also on more platforms. It was on PlayStation 4, where Spider-Man 2 was only on the PlayStation 5. So I guess there's some of that. But either way. We got Sith Lord
I'm curious about something though, Rand.
What?
And maybe you don't know the answer to this. How can MPD know how much Diablo has sold when it wasn't even on Steam initially?
Because Blizzard tells them.
Do they?
Yes.
Okie dokie then. Well, there you go. You answered my question. Thank you.
That's the thing. So like they so like when you look at it's not MPD and it's called like Cicana, like Cicana, I think.
They rebrand.
I think they rebranded, but is like the retailers, I believe, share the information with them about how much they've sold. So like the GameSpots, the Walmarts, and stuff like that, right? They're part of the panel. But then digital sales, which is why when people always bring up the UK stuff and the physical charts, it's always like a laugh because it's like, oh, the physicals, this game did this, but it's only the physical. It's like, yeah, well, that's not a good indicator of anything. You need digital. And the only people who have digital sales are, the manufacturers, the console manufacturers who would share that with, their partners. But so they do share digital information with Cicana, except for Nintendo. Nintendo doesn't share digital sales with Cicana. So nobody knows, except for Nintendo, how many digital copies of Super Mario Wonder was sold. So yeah, like
intriguing.
Yeah, so there are, and that's one of the things. Alan Wake 2, for this past month, was not on the top 20 for NPD at all. It just was like, it wasn't listed, and that's because, one, it has no physical retail copies, so so it's not sold at Amazon or any of these places, and two, Epic doesn't share digital information with NPD, so it just seems like Alan Wake 2 didn't sell anything, which we know is obviously not true because because they do. But yeah, so yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff about that. Sith Lord, member for 9 months, says I'm thankful for Rand and Jez making my Fridays better. Thankful for Jez and all of his tweets and articles. Rand and his videos and podcasts. Thank you guys. Yeah, Jez has a lot of articles.
Thank you so much, man.
Lot of articles.
I haven't written that much this week, actually. I've been doing like a lot of admin stuff.
A lot of admin stuff.
In the new year, I might be taking on a new role, which lets me go back to writing more content. So we'll see what happens in January. I don't actually know what's happening with that yet, but we'll see. But thank you so much. Really appreciate it. My Series S article did a ridiculous amount of traffic.
Let's talk about that really quickly. I totally forgot about that, actually, because I think it was
50,000.
Because you had mentioned to me the day before, you're like, I'm going to piss off some people. I love it when Jez, he'll just DM me. He's like, I'm writing an article and I'm aiming to piss people off. I'm like, oh, like, what are we talking about? What are we doing here, dog?
To piss people off.
And
I just know that it's going to happen sometimes when you talk about certain things.
So
I don't think people were pissed off by it, though. I didn't get any angry messages or comments. A lot of people were like, fair enough. I was surprised, actually, but yeah, I thought it might be controversial.
So you said that you were wrong about the Series S. Yes. And one of the catalysts for you writing this article was, the information that Larian said that the Series S, they're deving for the Series S. Basically, they were. So I guess I'll let you explain. So what exactly do you mean when you said you were wrong about the Series S and all this sort of stuff? Like, what was your talking points?
Well, I wrote an article a few months ago, which was like, well, it was not a few months ago. It was like, well, it was a few months ago. God, time flies, doesn't it? It was like in August when Larian first discussed the fact that they couldn't get these features working on the Series S, and it just kind of like, it sort of catalyzed a range of issues with Xbox hardware that I thought was represented maybe a misfiring or a sort of, I don't know how to describe it. Like the strategy, it was sort of like a review of Xbox's hardware strategy. I wrote this article, and it was quite popular too, and caused a lot of controversy in its own right. But the gist of it was like it was structured into multiple sections. One of the sections was about Xbox sacrificing the Xbox Series X hardware for the cloud, which we now which cloud probably isn't going to pan out, as we'd like and we'd hope.
At least not right now.
At least not right now. And then another part of it was, Xbox sort of divided again their dev base. So like A, you've got less Xbox Series X's in the wild because of the cloud. And then B, you've got less Xbox Series X's in the wild for developers to target because you've split your user base in half. Which is similar to it's similar to the reason why Call of Duty and other shooters stopped doing map packs, right? You split your user base by input. Or by their, by what map packs they've got. So like they split the developer user base in half, which I know a lot of developers, maybe like Larian or medium-sized businesses and stuff like that, they're probably looking at the platform and just being like head scratching and thinking about the risk involved in developing for two platforms when neither one by itself is very big. So it's kind of like it was kind of like a criticism of that whole kind of strategy, right?
Yeah.
But then like Larian sort of came back around and they were like, we found like massive performance gains as a result of our work optimizing this for the Series S. And there was like and it wasn't just that though. In really the article was more talking about how popular the Steam Deck has been, because the Steam Deck is also making PC developers really rethink their approach to optimization, because obviously Steam Deck isn't the most powerful device in the world, but it serves a specific purpose, and so does the Series S. And it sort of changed my philosophy, because people are celebrating the Steam Deck in a way that I kind of wish people would celebrate the Series S in a way, because it serves a specific purpose. And I think like the Steam Deck gets away with it a little bit more because it is fully portable with the screen. And I think the Series S would too if it was fully portable with the screen. And yeah, people are using it as a portable console. It's got that clip-on screen, which is really cool and stuff like that. And Microsoft has to be looking at, I would hope they're looking at that and thinking, man, we really need to rethink our approach to what this, platform could potentially be. And maybe with new technology, and people always talk about this dream of like the Series S handheld, and I've been told by a dev previously that it wasn't possible with the way they've set things up. And the Xbox operating system is got a lot of overhead. It runs hypervisor and all this stuff, and that kind of makes it difficult. And the documents that Microsoft leaked from 2020, they were talking about this concept of not having a thin OS. A thin OS, which basically was them saying we don't have like a lightweight gaming operating system for making these kind of devices, like a handheld or something like that. Like we need a lot of overhead to make this work. So it was sort of like an admission that I was probably doom and glooming a bit too much.
Jez dooming and glooming? Never seen it ever in the history of this podcast or on Twitter or anything. Jez never dooms and glooms. He's never pessimistic, is he? Come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, okay, fair. So I thought I'll hold my hands up and like come back around, because I have got my hands on as well. The carbon black Xbox Series S, which is, it's a very nice little console. And yeah, it's not portable, and it doesn't have a screen, and it doesn't do the stuff the Steam Deck does. Steam Deck's a little bit more expensive though, and has some performance compromises that the Series S doesn't. So that kind of exists in the same space as this sort of companion console almost. Although I do expect that there are a lot of people who are using both devices as their primary device. And I was kind of thinking like, I'm being kind of selfish by talking about how I kind of wished Microsoft had just gone all in on the Series X this gen, and like they'd not done cloud and they'd not done a Series S, and they'd sort of focused on delivering the experience that I personally want. But instead, Microsoft did probably the noble thing, which was trying to bring more people to the platform in ways that might be preferable for them. And everyone's kind of punished them for it. Like the press has punished them for it. Arguably gamers have punished them for it. Clearly Sony had the better hardware strategy this gen, I would think, again. And part of that is, the fact that it's PlayStation and they're sort of entrenched. But, we had all the stock issues with the Series X, and Microsoft struggled to catch up and all that kind of stuff. And we don't know the full picture on why some of this stuff happened. But I do think, like, I just felt like cutting the Series S some slack. And clearly, when a game is made with the Series S in mind, good performance can be extracted out of it. And I think devices like the Steam Deck will probably help in a weird way the Series S and maybe even the Nintendo Switch to get more value out of these kind of experiences. So yeah, it was a really popular article. It got 150,000 readers, which is
That's a lot.
A lot. If you think in terms of a YouTube video, like that's a lot of readers. So, thanks to anyone who supported that or sent a nice comment about it. Really appreciate it. But that's the thing. Like, I think it's important to evolve your position based on new information, and it's tough because I'm not a dev. You're not a dev. Most of the people watching this aren't a dev. So, there's a lot of people filling the blanks with their information with second-hand knowledge a lot of the time, and you know, when new information comes to light, maybe your position should change, and that's kind of what that was. So yeah, I'll be kinder to the Series S, and I'm actually using the Series S as my Diablo machine right now. I've got it hooked. I've got a really weird setup. I've got my second PC monitor with the HDMI switch, so I can like switch it off my PC and switch it onto the Series S when my girlfriend wants to watch the TV. So now I can have the Series S running on my second PC monitor instead of going straight up to the TV where the Series X is hooked up with my capture card for recording footage for the podcast or for videos and stuff like that. So it's the most convoluted setup in the world, but it works really well for Diablo. So I do wish they'd make a handheld, though. Boy, I really wish they would.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. Jez was
it,
me earlier how he wants like Xbox to make a PlayStation Portal like thing for him. Because he just wants like a handheld from Xbox essentially.
Yeah. I don't necessarily want a Portal. I just said if they did make one, I'd buy it. Like, because I'm addicted to buying random tech. Do I need one? Probably not. But yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, so that was last week. Jez, kind of relenting on some of his doom and gloom around the Series S and stuff, which is always fun to see. But also last week, maybe the biggest announcement. I mean, maybe the biggest announcement of the year, maybe the last 2 years. Definitely the biggest gaming tweet ever. But Rockstar came out and basically said they're going to show a brand new trailer of Grand Theft Auto in the early December. So they came out and they, essentially, what did they say? Destroyed the internet. And on November 8th, they said next month marks the 25th anniversary of Rockstar Games. Thanks to the incredible support of the players worldwide, we've had the opportunity to create games we are truly passionate about. And then eventually they said, we are very excited to let you know that in early December, we will release the very first trailer for the next Grand Theft Auto. We look forward to many more years of sharing these experiences with all of you. Thank you, Sam Houser. So, I mean, people went nuts. Even though there's been so many leaks about Grand Theft Auto, even though they've sort of talked about it in their financial, calls or what have you, even though there's rumors going around that I saw a rumor recently that Grand Theft Auto 6 cost $1 billion to make, or some ridiculous amount of money.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. It was just people speculating that it's costing a lot. I've seen people speculate that it's going to cost $100 on release. Like, not like the normal 70 right now, that Grand Theft Auto 6 will cost 100, which, I don't know. I sort of feel like if there is a game that could get away with it, it would be Grand Theft Auto. They could get away with pricing it above the current market conditions. And they're probably the only game that could really do that.
I am morbidly curious to see what would happen.
But then there's a part of me that's like, well, but like the longevity and the money that they're going to make a Grand Theft Auto is all going to be based around the multiplayer. But do you want to make access to the multiplayer extremely high? But then does it matter if you're going to sell 100 million units? You know what I mean? Because
it'd be a dastardly experiment. I mean, how do you think people react? Put it in chat. Put a vote poll in chat.
Hold on.
I want to know how the people would feel about $100 base price.
All right, hold on. You
gotta think about how to phrase this.
Yeah, I would say, would you buy GTA 6 if the starting price was 100 US. Because, that means it's really a lot more expensive in Canada. It's a lot more expensive in, where Special Nick lives in Timbuktu. You know what I mean? Uh, It'd be interesting to see. Because if there's one franchise that could do it, it's this one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But normally, the common logic would lead you to believe that you want access to multiplayer to be as cheap as possible, which is why a lot of games are free to play, right? But if you're essentially saying, "Oh, Grand Theft Auto is $100 and that's the access to it," does that affect their, revenue projections and things like that? I mean, I don't think it's going to come out at 100, but I'm just saying I've seen people talk about it like, "Oh, it's going to come out at 80 or 90 or 100." I think it is possible that they could do.
It was based on wasn't it based on a feedback survey or something?
I'm not sure what it was based on, but
I think Take-Two sent out a feedback survey asking people how much they'd pay for a game or something, and I think people extrapolated from that. I think
here's what I think might happen, and I've seen a lot of games do this recently. Even more, Xbox has been doing it for a while, but I've seen a lot of games like RoboCop just did it. But the early access stuff, I could easily see regular edition Grand Theft Auto 70, 5-day early access for Grand Theft Auto 120, something like that, where it's the $100 version, but it comes with early access, and everybody and their mother's gonna buy it. You know it, even though Grand Theft Auto Online probably won't work, because you remember when it launched on the 360. And the PlayStation 3, God, what is it, 10 years ago? In September of 2013, Grand Theft Auto Online didn't launch with the game, you remember. It was just the campaign, and the online launched a month later. And even when the online launched a month later, it didn't really work right. They had a lot of problems, right? So I would imagine, in a lot of multiplayer releases, especially ones like this that are going to be really jam-packed, I don't know if it'll work right, but I could easily see them adopting what the industry seems to be moving towards of, hey, here's the regular price game, but if you want to play it early, give us $100. Because it definitely seems that's the way a lot of games are moving. Because essentially kind of raises the price, the standard price. It's like, well, you can play it early, but you got to give us $120. And I think a lot of people would pay that. You know what?
I agree. I think I would.
I might pay that.
Oh no, Rand, you're destroying gaming.
I
never see me buy microtransactions.
I like Mortal Kombat 1, but I don't like it enough to pay 100, because that was $120 to play that 5 days early. Plus you get all the DLC and stuff. So at least you do get stuff for it. And with Starfield, it was $100, although it was $35 if you had Game Pass, and you got the first expansion and some pre-order stuff. So you actually do get stuff. Normally, when you buy these things early, you get extra things. GTA could do the same thing and say, "All right, you get access to something or whatever." Or maybe they throw you a shark card. Hey, get Grand Theft Auto 6 5 days early and a $100,000 shark card for $120. Right?
Oh my god!
But
you mean like the Diablo horse?
Yeah,
that
the horse armor. So yeah, I could totally see that happening. And you know what? I want to play Grand Theft Auto 6, so I might buy the $120 version. I don't know.
Oh man,
I'm sorry I'm ruining gaming. But who's really ruining gaming? Jez Corden, because he bought the $65 horse armor from Diablo 4. Yes, he did.
I literally did not. Man, this slander has to stop. But I tell you, Rand, if the horse looked cool, maybe I would have done. But it doesn't. It doesn't look cool. It looks lame. So yeah, I mean, it's weird that they put $70 price tag on a horse that didn't even look that good. But yeah, this gaming has gotten. It's kind of funny, because do you remember there was this huge pushback against the gambling mechanics, the loot boxes and stuff like that back in the day. But and then all the devs were like, okay, we'll get rid of loot boxes, you win. I kind of feel like it's gotten worse. At the loot box. Do you think? Because I feel like before, with loot boxes, they get a lot of whales who would they would spend way more money to get less stuff, you know, but they didn't care because they had lots of money to spend, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that we don't have the gambling aspect of it, they're just pricing everything ridiculously high to get those whales who previously would have gambled, but now there's no gambling left. I feel like it's gotten worse, like genuinely. But maybe I'm off base there.
Dude, the fact that Diablo horse armor was $65 and it's like basically the price of the game. The game's like 70.
Currency with it.
It's like, and
you get currency with
I
it.
know you get currency with it, but it's just the idea that, come on, like it's basically the price of the entire game, and it's not even a cool looking horse armor set.
Yeah, it's wild. There's funny because there was I can't remember if it was an interview or the Blizzard developer talking on their personal channel or something like that. But a comment came to light recently. I can't even. Maybe it's not even a new comment. I can't remember exactly where I saw it, but it was trending around. So maybe someone in the chat knows. But someone from Blizzard was saying that when they did the first microtransaction for World of Warcraft, because originally World of Warcraft was just subscription, there was no store. But then they added, very controversially, a horse armor store for WoW as well. It doesn't have a lot of stuff in there, to be honest, but it does exist. And the Blizzard developer was saying that the first horse armor they added to that store made more money than the StarCraft expansion, StarCraft 2 expansion, which is insane, right? Just a singular art asset made more money than an entire expansion for StarCraft 2, which kind of gives you an idea of why there isn't a StarCraft 3 yet, right? But yeah, it's we only have ourselves to blame, or especially Rand, who's going to buy Grand Theft Auto for $100.
I mean,
thanks, Rand, for destroying gaming.
Only if it comes with early access, because otherwise, it's like whatever.
You're giving them ideas, man.
But they're gonna do. They already know what they're gonna do. Like, fun speculation. Our buddy Mav in chat says most games as a service games have a currency bundle like that. Rand, they do, and I'm more poking fun at the idea that it's like the whole thing is like the price of the game essentially, and also that Jez wants to buy it really bad because he just loves Diablo so much. But staying on the Blizzard train, this is also from last week. We have Mike Ybarra talking about what it would be like to work under Xbox. Did you see this, Jez?
I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw some choice comments. Like, one of the things he said was service game players have no patience, right?
Well, and that was that. I was more like they want everything right away and blah. I did see that. Which
he's not wrong.
He's not necessarily wrong, and you can't give everything right away. Things take time to make, and you need to have a steady drip of content. But he was talking about the impact of the deal and what it would be like. What would Blizzard be like under Xbox? And Ybarra said that I think the way Xbox boss Phil Spencer approaches building teams and focusing on culture and enabling creative freedom is going to give Blizzard a lot more of that sense of being independent studio than ever before, which is, I'm sure, music to your ears or music to anybody who has been a big fan of Blizzard, because a lot of fans have sort of felt that the decline of Blizzard coincides with Activision shareholders and Bobby Kotick demanding certain things, and Blizzard kind of losing their autonomy essentially. And now under that's not going to be the case. Sure, they might be Activision Blizzard, but they might be able to do more things independently then. So Ybarra says that's what I really mean when I talk about a new era of possibilities, of empowerment, of serving players better than we ever have. So yeah, he even talked about the idea of, maybe bringing back StarCraft, but not in the way that people expect, possibly. And people were like, "Oh my god," like is that going to be StarCraft shooter?
StarCraft Ghost, yeah. Well, that's why, like, I drunkenly said over the summer that they were going to bring back StarCraft, right? But then I walked it back because a lot of people were like, I said StarCraft 3, but then I realized, like, I never actually told that it was StarCraft 3. So I wanted to walk that back in case it was a mobile game or something. But I don't think Mike could be out here teasing a mobile game, personally. Especially since, like, they just released a mobile strategy game, so I kind of feel like if they did, it would cannibalize Warcraft Rumble. So hopefully it's a cool game. Hopefully it's a shooter, because I think StarCraft's probably perfect for a shooter. And I hope it's gritty and 18 rated as hell, because I kind of feel like they need a bit of that. You know, you got Overwatch, which is cutesy and Pixar, and it's not really very dark. And honestly, these days, Warcraft isn't very dark either. You got Diablo, which is dark as hell. And I suppose, you know, sci-fi horror would be a good counterbalance with StarCraft. I really hope they do it, man. But we'll see.
I see Sea Lord of Bravos in the chat. He's saying, what was his comment here? He said, he basically said, "Are people?" I missed it. Oh no, he's basically said, "Are people like can't resist the lure of microtransactions?" And some people can't for sure. I can easily. Because we even
you're out here talking about paying for early access. It's a microtransaction.
Yeah, but no, it's not. No, it's not. That's totally
it is.
No,
it's
not. It's absolutely
you're
not.
paying a microtransaction for a service. It's literally a microtransaction.
No. Yeah, he said, are some people just completely powerless in their ability to resist microtransactions? And I don't think I've ever purchased a microtransaction. Because I don't care about customization. I don't care about the color of my gun. I don't care about what my character looks like. When I play Mass Effect, I use the default character, right? So some people, when they hear that, they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah," and it's not because, and it's like, "Yeah, I am cheap." Okay,
yeah, but Rand. You don't season your food. You don't.
What does that got to do with anything?
Your food.
What does that got to do with anything?
Of course you don't care about customization, bro. You eat like plain fries, plain pasta. So of course you are not the target audience for customization or microtransactions. If they were going to target you with a microtransaction, they'd somehow have to do it via the medium of a book.
Oh.
How about this?
Really?
EA book publishers, right? You have to pay for every page of the book. You get the cover of the book and the first chapter, but every page after that is a microtransaction. How would you feel if the next Wheel of Time book?
There is no more Wheel of Time books. There's not going to be anymore.
Why not?
Because the original author's dead. Brandon Sanderson said he's not doing it anymore. Oh, really? So they would, yeah. So that's
what he was. The Brandon Sanderson's son, right?
Brandon Sanderson's got his own things, but they sort of decided, like Harriet, Robert Jordan's widow, basically is not going to do anymore. But either way,
well, just imagine in a parallel dimension that EA was publishing the next book.
Okay,
you would buy it, bro. You were paying microtransactions for every damn page.
Every damn page. I mean, they did. I mean, John Riccatello, who made that comment about like, oh, we're going to be able to charge gamers for clips of bullets. It's gonna be great. You remember those comments back in 2009?
Yeah.
Where he's like, and then he went on to Unity to ruin that, and then he got ousted from that.
Now his career is over, baby.
Right? No. He's like, career's not over. He's gonna run PlayStation. That's who they're gonna pick for their CEO next. You want to get somebody in on the games as a service? Get Phil Harrison or John Riccatello. They're coming in, baby.
Oh no! I can't believe Rand's putting that energy out there, man.
Why not? Why not?
If that happens, man, PlayStation fans are gonna blame you for putting that energy into.
Let me ask you this serious question about Diablo 4. I'm assuming you're playing it right now, right?
I'm not. I'm playing World of Warcraft.
Okay, you're playing World of Warcraft. How much money have you spent in Diablo 4?
Oh,
give me a rough estimate of how much money you've spent on it.
Well, let's not talk about this.
Oh, so you can roast me about Randall Bland, right? We can roast me about not putting seasoning on my chicken or whatever. But if I ask you a simple question to give me an estimate of the amount of money that you spent on Diablo 4, a game that you love, a game that you also got for free, but then also bought the Ultimate Edition for, and also like a 19 inches of Lilith. I just want to know. If you want to continue to roast me, I want to know. Tell me the truth. How much have you spent on Diablo 4? How much have you spent on World of Warcraft? How much have you spent on Overwatch 2? Or Overwatch?
It's a lot of money.
How
Bro.
much?
It's a lot of money.
Get
Oh.
everybody, myself and everybody in chat, because we want to know. Because people are saying Jez caught in 4K right now. Give us an estimate, because you talk about me ruining the video game industry. Because maybe I want to play Grand Theft Auto 6 early, and maybe I would pay $120 for the early access, right? Maybe, I don't know. It depends. But let's talk about who's really ruining the video game. And let's talk about these microtrans. How much, Jez, have you spent in microtransactions?
Well, it just does not include the statue then, or the books.
No, doesn't include the statue.
Edition.
Doesn't include. I'm talking strictly microtransactions or
the
loot
PC
boxes.
version. Because I bought the game twice. I bought the Ultimate Edition, which I haven't even opened yet, and I bought the PC version, and I got the Xbox version. But just microtransactions then?
Yeah, tell me.
Maybe about $200
on each. $200 on Diablo 4. 200. Like, so is that total for all the games?
Okay.
That's just Diablo 4.
Just in Diablo 4.
Okay, so you spent. You know, it's funny because I have a friend of mine who spent like $5,000 on Neverwinter Nights, I believe it was.
I've been playing World of Warcraft for 20 years.
You're right. So how much have you spent on World of Warcraft in 20 years?
It's thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars.
It's gotta be and it's like the subscription, the race changes because I can never decide what race I want to be, and I changed my race like this month. Like I went to an orc and I was like, I don't really want to be an orc, so I went to a goblin. That costs $15 every time you want to change race. And server transfers, like a lot of the server things are microtransactions. And then in Burning Crusade, I did the worst thing ever. I bought gold, man. I was buying gold I was addicted, man. I was buying gold by the truckload. I was working a 9-to-5 job and I couldn't afford the time to grind. So I used to pay for the gold. And that was a problematic time. I think I spent like $1,000 on gold when I was like 22, maybe. And I had no money. That was like a really bad time.
So you were spending money that you didn't have.
Yeah, I was spending money I didn't have. I had a credit card. It was a bad time. But that wasn't even going to Blizzard. That was going to some random third-party gold farming website. But yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, man. And then Overwatch, probably I haven't actually spent that much in Overwatch. It's probably similar to Diablo, even though like it's been out for much longer. But the irony is that like I've never actually bought a battle pass for Diablo or Overwatch because you can get them for free with Microsoft Rewards. Sweet.
In which they seem to be consistently.
They are culling that.
Yeah,
they're culling that back.
Used to get like 50 Microsoft points or whatever it was for one achievement in a Game Pass game, and I think it's like 5 now or whatever.
Yeah, they're like. I think they've realized that people are actually using it for things that aren't related to Bing, because the whole point of Microsoft Rewards was for Microsoft to get more data for Bing, but then more people were using it for gaming and not for Bing. So Microsoft was like, "Hang on a sec,
hey,
this is completely defeating the point." Yes.
Breaking news.
Oh God.
Sam Altman has been ousted as OpenAI CEO.
No fucking way.
Yep. It's on the Twitter Spaces right now. Brad Sam says maybe overreading the post by OpenAI, but it seems like they may not be happy with their relationship with Microsoft. So, I mean, I know one of the conversations we were going to have was about AI, and we'll probably talk about that later. But I did want to.
Wait, where are you seeing this? I need to make sure that the team's covering it.
TechCrunch.
That's really.
I saw Brad
really
Sam's
important.
retweet TechCrunch's post from like 9 minutes ago, or Brad Sam's tweet or whatever.
And they've implicated Microsoft in that?
I don't know. I'm just saying. I just see Brad Sam's tweet where he's quote retweeting TechCrunch, where it says that Sam Altman's been ousted as CEO of Microsoft.
Holy crap!
Yeah, I don't know.
Is Microsoft doing a hostile takeover? Chairman of the board stepping down as well.
I don't know, bro. What's going on? You need to get the team on it.
Everyone's AFK. This is insane. Okay, so yeah, sorry about that, guys. I had to go and check What's going on? Because that is huge breaking news. Like Sam, for those who don't know, Sam Altman, created ChatGPT, and his team did, and then Microsoft they invested billions and billions of dollars to effectively get control of OpenAI. Microsoft has exclusive rights to generative AI built on OpenAI's stuff, and OpenAI is not very open anymore because of it. So Microsoft has exclusive access to this stuff to commercialize it. But Microsoft, like, I suppose this might have something to do with this past week, Rand, because there was a Microsoft event this week called Microsoft Ignite, which is all about developers and stuff like that. So, like, we didn't really cover it. There was a little bit about gaming AI during that event, but not much interesting really for us. But during that event, Microsoft basically said, like, every single product we've got now has a co-pilot AI.
Didn't they just reveal? Like, I don't really pay attention to the stuff Microsoft's doing. I only care about Xbox. But didn't they just reveal some new chips or something?
Yeah, they're doing their own server chips.
Their own server chips, and they say that it's like better than any chips from any other competitor for cloud and AI. And there's speculation that maybe those are the chips they might use and for the next Xbox. Because remember, the next Xbox leak had them moving to instead of using AMD, they were going to use
ARM chips,
ARM chips or whatever. And
ARM chips, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I always call it ARM when it's just ARM. But yeah, it's that is crazy shit, man. And hilariously, there is no one online to cover it right now. So
you better get going, because Tom Warren already tweeted and wrote an article about 40 minutes ago, bro. He's on. Tom
Richard,
Warren.
Someone's got it. Someone's got it. It's okay. It's okay.
Tom Warren's on the ball.
Yeah, well, I'm podcasting with
I know
with a guy who doesn't season his chips right now.
I'm podcasting with the guy that spends $5,000 on microtransactions.
Well, that's huge, because I kind of feel like, is Microsoft pulling a hostile takeover? Microsoft owns a significant portion of OpenAI,
I think they do.
Stake in OpenAI. I think it might even be 49%. Yes, Microsoft controls 49% of OpenAI stock.
Ooh, 2 more percentage points, baby. Or actually, not even a full 2%. All they got to do is 50 plus 1. And then
so
2%.
If Sam Altman's out, who's getting that stock? Because that might is Microsoft doing a hostile takeover of OpenAI? Oh my god, man! Why did this have to happen during the show? But that is hilarious.
Well, we will be talking about the AI stuff later in the show. Let me get to some of these super chats, because we got a lot to talk about. We got Silas saying, Rand, do you let Jez play games during the 2+1 episodes podcast? I love to chat with Paul, but Jez seems to go quiet for extended periods of time.
Yeah, so there's a reason why I was playing the game last week, and that's because I didn't have any footage downloaded to put in the stream. I was playing Diablo live during that show, but also I did notice that I was going quiet, and it wasn't that I wasn't paying attention. It's just that I kind of felt like they were having a good discussion without me. So 3 is a crowd, man. I really, even in real life, like when there's 3 people, I struggle to speak up. It's a me thing, Well, which is why Xbox 2 works really well as a 2, because if you've ever heard me on a podcast with more than a couple of people, I need to be drunk to function in that situation. It's a me thing, and I'll try and get better at it.
Well, it's also a me thing. Because like when I talk to people like Paul, I'm thinking of questions as they're talking, like, okay, what am I going to ask him next? What I want to talk about next? And sometimes I forget that Jez is there because I want the conversation to flow. Instead of like, all right, Paul ain't finished answering the question, and I'm going to wait for Jez to come up with the question. So it's like, I'll just say something to keep it going. You know what I mean? Because that's how it works. Like, Jez will always be like, bro, you're really good at this. And it's just because, like, in my head, as like Paul's saying something, I'll just come up with
I
another thing to say, ask him, or another
see.
comment to say, you know?
I don't do that, and that's why I'm terrible at interviewing people. Like I'm really bad at it because I don't think of the next question. My brain starts thinking again after they've stopped talking, which is I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still new to this sort of three-way interview format, so we'll get better at it. And I do appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. JJ Sayin says, "Do you think remakes like Resident Evil 4 should be Game of the Year?" I know this has definitely been a very hot topic about remakes and their position in the market, and especially their position in end of the year game awards, right? Because people will say it's not fair because Resident Evil is basically, Resident Evil 4 is a game built on the legacy and the building blocks of a already amazing game from 2006 or whatever year it was, 2005, 2004. So and they feel like it takes a position away from something new, right? And people are being like, Resident Evil 4 shouldn't have been nominated. I will say, however, because we're gonna have this greater discussion about the Game Awards in a little bit. I didn't really see this outrage about remakes when Resident Evil 2 got nominated for Game of the Year in 2019, or when Final Fantasy VII Remake got nominated in 2020. Although I guess you can make the argument that Resident Evil 2 is a bigger remake than Resident Evil 4 because Resident Evil 2 is much older with like a much different sort of camera style, whereas like Resident Evil 4 was fully 3D. Even though there's a lot of changes in Resident Evil 4 and the devs worked really hard to make that an amazing experience, people feel like it's a slap in the face for it to get nominated over all the other brand new games or all the other new IPs that come out. And that's the other thing I do see a lot of people bitch about. Not only like people like us or people in the chat, but I also see a lot of people in the games media, the San Fran cabal, as I like to call them, that bitch about how come there's no new IPs? Where are the new IPs? And yet, every single time it happens, the games that get nominated for the prestigious awards are sequels. And so it's like, so they'll write articles and they'll talk about, oh, gaming, it's just sequels after sequels. Like, where's the new, fresh stuff? But then, like, when it comes down to, like, give the awards for the best games, it's just sequels. So, I mean, like, I just say, like, your actions always speak, your words. So their words are saying one thing, but the actions aren't, are saying something different, right? And maybe you could even say that for gamers, because gamers too are out there all the time. We want new IP. We want new IP. We want new IP. And then when a new IP comes out, they don't support it, and they don't buy it, and it flops, and the latest sequel gets all the money, right?
I mean, yeah, nostalgia is a huge selling point. You kind of like when you've got a nostalgia play, you don't have to market the game, really. I mean, to some degree, you don't have to introduce people to it. You don't have to figure out how to position it. And I think Cyberpunk 2077 suffered from this to some degree, because I think a lot of people were expecting Cyberpunk 2077 to be Grand Theft Auto, and when it wasn't Grand Theft Auto, because I feel like the marketing kind of hinted that it was going to be in that kind of context. When it wasn't that, I think a lot of people felt blindsided by it, amongst other things, of course. I'm not saying that's the only issue with the game, of course not. But I didn't think but also SEO, if we're talking about like, for me, for example, Google controls our website. They 100% all up control Windows Central and what we cover. And if like it's a new IP, and I'm sure it's the same for other game journalist outlets as well, and YouTubers and anyone who's a slave to the algorithm, which is pretty much like most of us, and which is one of the reasons why I like doing this podcast so much, because we don't have to care so much about the algorithm to the same degree as like a journalist website or a YouTuber who does a specific thing, but if you've got a game that's like a sequel, you've already got your SEO juice ready. But if it's a new IP, like Immortals of Avium, for example, there's no search traffic for that. You know, there's no one searching for that. But Resident Evil, that's established, people are searching for that. So it becomes this sort of vicious cycle of nobody talking about it because nobody talking about it. You know, and then the only way you can sort of cut through that is to have a massive, ridiculous marketing budget that on the size of Cyberpunk or whatever. And of course, there are exceptions to this rule. You know, there are games that just go completely viral, like Among Us, of course, and stuff like that. And you know, Baldur's Gate 3 didn't have a typical marketing campaign, but again, there's a lot of nostalgia for Baldur's Gate, and also there's a huge established fan base of D&D, which is the universe that it draws its content from. So yeah, it's new IP is really hard, and I think Phil himself has spoken about this a bunch of times. But yeah,
I mean, hell, there was
tough,
just
man.
one of the things that always happens. I mean, layoffs, right? And I think when we were doing the Xbox 2+1 with Paul Tassi, it came out that the parent company behind a publisher like 505 Games was laying off a bunch of people, and one of the things they said was that they were going to focus on the recognizable IPs and sequels because there's been like selective purchasing of new IP since the post-pandemic or something.
Yeah.
And I do sort of feel like the $10 price increase to $70 does hurt new IPs. Because like with someone like Resident Evil 4, it's like it's Resident Evil, you have a feeling it's going to be good, your money's well spent, or at least you think it will be because it's a franchise that you love. But then you see something brand new like Immortals of Avium or any of these other brand new IPs that come out and they're 70, you're less inclined to want to give them that much money because games are expensive. I guess that's where Game Pass comes in.
I was literally going to say that.
Where it's like, oh,
where
like,
Game Pass is really strong.
It's like, okay,
right?
well, you can just download it, check it out. Whether you continue on with it or not, at least you're not. It removes that. Oh, do I want to spend this type of money on this game or not? It removes that from the equation. But yeah,
Microsoft should like do some kind of special rate for new IP. On Game Pass. I think that could be an interesting vehicle.
Well, people have talked about like, how do you change the Game Awards? And we'll get to this more in depth. But people have talked about adding a new category next year for like new IP.
That should definitely happen,
right?
The Windows Central Game Awards, which is great by the way, and so much better than any other Game Awards. Of course it is. I think we actually have this category, or we've had in the past. And we've also got like most anticipated upcoming game, which again, gives some view to new IP and stuff. But I do think best new IP absolutely needs to happen for sure.
Yeah. If you guys are joining,
he doesn't seem that open to changing it up. Sometimes I feel like.
Well, if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, share this out, let people know that we are live on YouTube right now, and this will be up on iTunes and Spotify probably tomorrow, like just usually when Jez posts it. And then, hit the subscribe button if you're new. We have Corey who says, Jez, some of us have been in your comments section for 2 years telling you no game has been optimized for the series console's DX12 features.
Man, honestly, I don't know much about that stuff when it comes to DX12, and I know that a lot of, even on PC, like, it doesn't feel like DX12 adoption has been that strong. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's like DX11 is just easier to work with and more entrenched or something like that, but I kind of feel like DX12 is just overlooked in general, not just on console. But that's on Microsoft to fix, man. So I'll try and educate myself on where Microsoft is in that sphere and see if I can give some more meaningful commentary on it.
We got Joe Munger saying, needing extra development work is never a good thing, especially as a small install base. Just look at the Switch and how so many AAA games have skipped it despite its massive install base. Yeah, but I think AAA games skip the Switch because those games literally can't run on the Switch, despite any extra amount of dev time you could have on it. Although I am interested in seeing how a Switch 2 in the market that can run all the AAA games that PS5 and Xbox has, like, does that significantly alter the gaming market? Because both PlayStation and Xbox don't look at Nintendo as competition, right? We've seen from court documents. I mean, how PlayStation was out there telling regulators, you can't include Nintendo with Xbox and us. We're the high console market or whatever, high performance console market, right? Nintendo's not a part of that. It'd be super interesting though. What happens if Nintendo and the Switch 2 comes out with a machine that was powerful enough that could run the AAA games, and now people have a choice about, oh, well, you know what? I could buy Alan Wake 2 on PlayStation, Xbox, or Switch 2. Where am I going to buy it at? Who's going to...
That's why it's so funny that Microsoft was like, oh yeah, we'll bring it to the Switch, yeah. It's like, yeah, of course, it's going to happen anyway when the Switch 2 comes out.
I'm just curious, will we see all of a sudden a shift in PlayStation and Xbox being like looking at Nintendo as more of competition? Because if they start eating up more of those AAA game sales, that means that's less money going to PlayStation and less money going to Microsoft. I guess you could say who would be hurt by a Switch that was that could run all the AAA games more? Would PlayStation be hurt more, or would Xbox be hurt more? And I guess maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe PlayStation just because there's more to hurt, I guess. More people,
yeah, potentially.
Or PlayStation because it's more, it's because it's the console that everybody gets. So it's like the default console. That also means it's the casual console that someone may just get it for Madden or FIFA or Battlefield or whatever. But now, if those people also have a Switch 2, you don't necessarily need to get that game on PlayStation. You could just get it on the Switch. So now it's like, yeah, does that hurt PlayStation
are so
more?
Important. Yeah. That's why exclusives are so important, you know. And I think, like, even in that universe, people still buy Switch for their exclusives. People still buy PlayStation for the exclusives. But, like, Xbox is still in this sort of bizarro world where people just don't, you know, I mean, there will be, like, the Forza fans and the Halo diehards who buy it, but, like, the mass casual audience, like you're talking about, how many people out there are sort of as excited for Halo as they're excited for Spider-Man, excited for Zelda, excited for Mario, whatever. But that could change with Activision being on board, you know.
It could.
You know, imagine if Diablo 5, imagine if that was exclusive, if they ever do it.
I mean, they could. 10 years is a long time if usually between Diablo games, so that would be 2033. Xbox could be the leader of the market. At least they remember, according to the leaked documents, they project themselves to be the leader of the gaming industry by 2030, at least revenue rise. So at that point, if it's kind of like, well,
they're thinking about that from a diversification standpoint, I think. And I think, like, they knew that the European Union was going to force Apple to open up the store, which means, like, they needed content to take advantage of that fact. They lined that up extremely well, and they nailed it. So a lot of this, we're going to be the industry leader, is not because of console. I feel like, but hey, who knows what could happen, baby?
You know,
we got a new Elder Scrolls. We got a new Fallout.
You know who makes the most money in gaming? Tencent. When's the last time you bought a Tencent console?
Good point, Rand. Good point.
When's the last time everybody went out there and bought that Tencent console to play all those Tencent games? Oh, yeah. They make more money than PlayStation does. Although I wonder if you added an Apple into that stuff, how much would Apple be number one? Like all the money they make on iOS for their game related things when they don't even really do much. But yeah,
I think even then, 10 cents first because of the Chinese market, man.
Yeah,
and the
microtransactions
and all that kind of stuff. It's Western companies have a lot of difficulty operating in China. Like Satya Nadella was literally talking about it this past week, where he's saying, like, you know, it's becoming increasingly unviable for Microsoft to operate freely in China because of, you know, not just regulatory pressure from within China, but also from the United States government, because the United States government doesn't want China, you know, getting access to high-end chip technology, because that will make China way more competitive in the high-tech industries, which is the United States bread and butter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the US, it's a national security issue in a way, which is why they've restricted companies that do business in the UK, in the US, from trading certain chip technologies with China, and that obviously impacts Microsoft to some degree. But yeah, it's a weird landscape at the end of the day, and I want to believe that there's room for 3 consoles in the industry, but I'm still not optimistic about Xbox's chances in the long term. But am I
In
ever
regards to
optimistic, Rand?
what?
In regards to, ever getting above 3rd place in the console industry?
I mean, they won't. But I
Yeah,
don't.
but like,
But I don't
and
think.
then
I don't
then
think.
it
I
becomes a
don't think it.
question of, is that enough for
It
Microsoft?
does. I don't think that matters.
Yeah, I don't think it
They
matters
won't. They
either.
won't. They won't go past 3rd place because their consoles don't sell in Europe and Japan. So they'll never get enough to outsell any of the other 2 consoles. But I don't necessarily think that matters. You know, I don't. They Xbox. Well, like when you add Activision Blizzard and all that sort of stuff, Xbox will be making more money than Nintendo. Maybe they won't make more profit than Nintendo because who does? But they'll make more money. But I mean, is it based on the number of consoles sold?
Yeah, but
Who?
how are they just gonna subsidize Xbox forever? Are they okay
Well,
with
who
that?
knows? But the thing is, who knows how long consoles will exist for, right? I mean, I've said at the beginning of this generation, I said there's 2 gens of hardware left. The upcoming one, which is the one we're in, and then the one after it, right? So, and then I don't know after that, because then you're getting into, so this one started in 2020. Next gen supposedly starts in 2028. And then if you go for 7-8 years, you're looking at 2035, 2036. That's 12, 13 years from now. I don't know. Who knows how anything's people I know that have been using it NVIDIA GeForce say it's amazing. Maybe that tech becomes so good that you don't even know that it's cloud gaming, and somebody makes the shift to it. Who knows where the gaming landscape's in 13 years from now? I mean, just think back 13 years ago from right now, like what gaming was in, what would it be, 2013? No, like 2010, and how gaming has evolved since 2010. And then
Yeah.
add another 13 years, who knows? It's tough to say. I do think we will definitely have another generation of hardware from Xbox and PlayStation and Switch. But after that, like when you get to 2035, I don't know. Maybe you keep on doing it because maybe people don't switch over. I don't know, to streaming or whatever. And maybe it never really takes off. But I mean, 13 years from now, I'm not worried about it at this point. And I'm not worried about Xbox and are they going to step out of the market? Because I have seen some of that talk, because the sales for October came in, and Xbox was in, like, I think 2nd for dollars but 3rd for units, and I think it was like down or whatever their sale, like the percentage. And it's like, oh, they're gonna go 3rd party. Like all the PlayStation fans are like, they're going 3rd party, but they don't realize what's really going on. And they're just like, suddenly, Microsoft spending all this money, to just leave the industry or just to go 3rd party. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But I think that's a lot of just hopium, So like, to me, I think Xbox will they'll always have some console, even if the console's not going to be the most important thing, simply because the console's also where I think, the user that spends the most money is going to live. It'll be an important part. I mean, even their leaked documents that weren't supposed to be seen by anybody says our game business is built on the foundation of console, right? So even that, that's not supposed to be seen by anybody. It's like that's where the foundation of their entire business is, and they want to obviously grow past that. They want to make all the money on PC, right? Because they see that's a huge growth opportunity. Look at what Steam's doing. You have mobile.
Phil's calling you.
Yeah, I know Phil's calling me, but yeah. So I'm not too concerned. So when people are like, "Oh my God, the nobody's buying the Xbox consoles," and it's like, yeah, and I don't necessarily think it's good that they're trailing behind the Xbox One at this stage in the generation. I mean,
It's scary.
But there is some, extraneous circumstances, like the PC stuff didn't really kick into high gear with the Xbox One until later in the generation, and the mobile push and all that stuff. Xbox does everything it can to basically kind of sell you on not buying a console, because you don't have to get a console. You don't need to if you want to play their games, right? And then you look at their earnings report and their revenue and stuff, and people are starting to be like, oh yeah, like I saw Benji, I saw all the sales analysts started with this last quarter that were just like, oh yeah, I'm starting to see the vision. Even though hardware's down, their revenue's like way up. And it's gonna happen this next one when they add in all the Activision stuff. Maybe their hardware's down again, but the revenue is gonna be the most they've ever done. And people are gonna be like, oh yeah, I guess that's fine. I mean, do you always need, like hardware increase? I mean, I'm sure you always would rather have it increase, of course, because you increase hardware, you get more people into it, and I still think Microsoft can do a better job of selling consoles to people. But is it as important as PlayStation, whose entire business model is the console? And if the console's not growing and they're not selling it, then their business isn't doing good. But you look at like Sony and you look at what they're doing and you look at the money they bring in, and it's like, yeah, we're doing great. Like this past thing, they brought in the most money in Q2 history for PlayStation, the most ever. But then if you sort it by revenue or sort it by profit, it was like the sixth best, because Sony's margins are so incredibly slim at this point. And, that's an issue. And they got their own problems with the live service stuff going on, because they're delaying 6 of the 12 games as a service. And you can't just like, well, we need new games. And it's not like the 360 gen where you could turn one out in 2 years. Shit takes a long time to make. So, like, that might be an issue that might rear its ugly head next year, year after, the year after that, where it's like, well, all these delays really, stockpiled and backed us up. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of minutia in all this stuff. So
that was a very interesting and insightful segment.
No, it wasn't.
I want to give you a round of applause, but I can't, because I don't have a soundboard open. But you're right. It's the backbone of Xbox is right now the microtransactions they get through the Xbox ecosystem. But that's going to evolve over time as, they start selling those microtransactions, controlling Blizzard and Call of Duty and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's difficult to predict where Call of Duty's future lies. And as we're going to talk about in a bit with this so-called Xbox tax, is there a universe where people just stop caring about Call of Duty?
They'll only stop caring about Call of Duty if something bigger and better comes along, or if Call of Duty just becomes so goddamn awful that people disengage from it, right? And I don't know. Could something bigger and better come along? Maybe. That's certainly a possibility. Could Battlefield reemerge and steal some people back? Could something brand new like the finals come out of nowhere and be like, all right, this is it? I'm sure Fortnite has stole some of their users, but then Call of Duty has Warzone, which is in that same vein. I know there's a lot of talk about it because this year's Call of Duty is, let me talk about this year's Call of Duty, because I did play it. Okay,
right. Let's hear it.
I did play a couple games. I haven't played anything in a week because I was sick. I didn't feel like getting on my Xbox, and then I was catching up on some reading, but I'm about to go head back onto the console because I got some games to play. Cyberpunk playthrough is coming up in December. I'm so excited to play Cyberpunk finally. But I did play RoboCop, and what a delightful game that was, Jez. I think I said it last week that I wasn't too sure on the game, but I finished it, and my thoughts on it have changed. So, like, in the beginning when I played it, I wasn't like too high on it. It was like, well, if you wanted to play a game where you're an armored tank walking through corridors, shooting galleries, and popping people's heads off, then they made the game for you. They captured that aspect of RoboCop flawlessly. But I wasn't really enjoying the beginning of the game, maybe because, like, I didn't know what to expect. And the game does try to actually have a story and some dialogue and some side quests and stuff. And it was cheesy, and I was kind of like, this isn't really interesting. But then I kind of went along with it in the vein of the movie. And I think the way I upgraded RoboCop was wrong, because you earn skill points after each mission, or every time you earn 1,000 XP, and you can upgrade RoboCop. So you can have these different abilities, that are mapped to like your D-pads or your bumpers, where like you can kind of send out a blast from your arm to kill people around you, or have a more armor, or dash forward. So like I originally had upgraded RoboCop to this thing where I saw, get 30% more XP. And in games when I see that, that's usually the first thing I go for, because I want more XP, or I want to get more XP so I can buy more things. And I think by doing that, by maxing it out first, I sort of maybe made a mistake, because you could add these different like attacks that you would get.
Actual abilities. Yeah.
The actual abilities that make the game at least somewhat more engaging, because the game really is like you go down, corridor, and you just pop people's heads, and it's great. So in my second time like sitting down to play it, I really enjoyed myself. I was kind of vibing with the cheesiness of the dialogue and the quests, because they're very reminiscent of the movie. I started to get more abilities. They introduced more enemies, and the game actually looks good. I was like, man, this is actually kind of a lot of fun. And yeah, my opinion on it changed. Like, it's still not a great game, but it's definitely a game where it's like, they essentially exceeded expectations. Like, this is a good RoboCop game. Actually, it's a great RoboCop game, because that power fantasy of you being a walking tank and just murdering people left and right and watching heads explodes is so satisfying. I just think it's maybe a bit overpriced at I think it's $70 or $60. But I definitely feel like if you're a fan of the movies, that you probably should play this. They did get the original voice actor for RoboCop to come back and play the role.
Yeah, that's so cool. I kind of feel like this studio has like a lot of passion.
They do. I think their previous game was the Terminator one, so they definitely are seems to be fans of like 80s franchises. So I ended up joining
punching
RoboCop
above
quite a
their
bit.
weight.
Yeah, punching above their weight's a good way to describe it. It was fun. Now, Modern Warfare 3, I played Modern Warfare 3 before RoboCop, and as everybody in this podcast knows that listens to it, I'm a weirdo. I play Call of Duty for the campaign, and I played all the campaigns except for Vanguard and Black Ops 3, but I've played all the rest of them, right? It's like a ritual. Every single November, you come and you just play through the campaign. So I was like, all right, well, it's a sequel to Modern Warfare 2, which wasn't that good. I didn't really care for the campaign this much. And Jez, I started this game at 10 p.m. and I rolled credits. It was 2:30.
Oof.
And I didn't take a break. So it's like 4 hours long, 4.5 hours long. I was like, holy shit, like how short this was. And it's just not good. It's essentially the worst Call of Duty campaign I've ever played, right? It is really DLC. It's like DLC that they're charging $70 for. And I'm only talking about the campaign because I didn't play zombies, and I don't play the multiplayer, so I don't know how those are. But the campaign felt like they just didn't have any time to string anything together, and this was something that was demanded of them, which came to be true because, as we've seen, Jason Schreier said that they had less than a year and a half to make this game. And when you put it in the context of that, I almost feel like, damn, you made this in a year and a half? That's sort of impressive. I mean, I wouldn't give this game more than a 6, but I wouldn't rate it less than a 5, I don't think. I don't think it's a 4, but I do think it's in that 5-6 area where it is sort of, it's just like lazy. Even like, so like the campaign's situated in there's like 13 missions, but you have like 7 missions that are your typical Call of Duty, linear affairs that has some set pieces, that have their story moments, and everything's bookended by cutscenes and the story of, okay, Makarov, he's broken out of prison, and he's still doing his bad stuff, and we gotta stop him. So you get Task Force 141, Ghost and everybody, and Price and Soap. We gotta stop him, right? So you have the regular Call of Duty missions that are interspersed between these new things called open combat missions. And the open combat missions are literally just parts of the Warzone map repurposed as campaign levels. So like you parachute in and you're in this like, no, I don't want to say big area, but you're in an area from like Warzone. And what they did, all they did was really like, hey, they put something on your map and like, go here, you need to destroy this helicopter or you need to defuse this bomb, and you go over there and do it, and then the objectives will change. And they throw all the Warzone crates on the map so you can get the different weapons with their attachments, and they just place some AI around the areas, and then they call it a day. And those things are just so, like, the word I wanted to use is low effort. But then, like, I realized they just didn't have any time to make this game. It's low effort because
bad management.
They didn't. I'm not even. Yeah, they just had no time to build a proper game. It was like, we got a year and a half to do it. Shit, how are we gonna do this? I don't know, bro. Pull in some Warzone maps that's already made, and like we'll add some It was very disappointing. To me, as someone who plays all the COD campaigns. You know, I mean, yeah, you can always say gunplay's tight because, yeah, I mean, the gunplay is always great in Call of Duty games, or it looks good because the Call of Duty games always look good. But, like, I thought the story was very disjointed in the levels. Like, the open combat missions have the things where you have the armor plates that you put in, you know, right? So, like, you put those in. But then, like, the regular missions don't have those, which is odd. And the regular straight-up linear Call of Duty levels aren't really that good either. They're really short. Like I said, you beat the game in like 4 hours, and that's really not, you know... I'm not saying like the Call of Duty campaigns are like the greatest things in gaming, but I really was not engaged at all by this. Like, I enjoyed RoboCop more. Like, I had more fun with RoboCop than I did with Call of Duty, and that's not something I would have thought, you know, I would say a year ago, honestly. And it's one of the things that we talked about with Paul Tassi, and one of the things that we've talked about on this podcast about what do you do with Call of Duty? Because I'm not sure you can do this again. I'm not sure you can go to Sledgehammer and be like, make us something in a year and a half. Because it happened with Vanguard, and Vanguard was awful, and it lost all these players. And they did it again, you know, with this release. And I don't know how Call of Duty's doing because they haven't announced like any sales figures like they normally do, but is that because they're with Microsoft now and we're never going to get that again? Or did it not really do well? I don't know. Does it matter if the campaign's not good because it's all about multiplayer anyways? And I have seen, you know, at least the people who play Call of Duty like say the campaign, the multiplayer is as best it's been in a long time. So maybe that's all that really matters. I don't know, but like you don't want like a game like this to get, you know, reviewed. Maybe reviews don't even matter for Call of Duty. I know reviews don't matter for Madden. I know reviews don't matter for NBA 2K. They're sort of insulated from any sort of critical, critical. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but they're sort of insulated from any reviews because it's like people just buy the Madden every year and it's just what they do. And I sort of feel like maybe that's the same with Call of Duty, that even if it doesn't outsell last year's, maybe if they just sell the same amount or slightly less, they'll be fine with it because it's going to bring in money. It's going to bring in all this revenue. But yeah, I did not have fun with that campaign, Jez. It was over way too quickly. The story should have ended, but nope, it's continued. So I'm sure Infinity Ward is going to be doing Modern Warfare 4 in 2 years. Got to keep the story going for whatever. And it really comes down to this idea of like, we needed to get it done in a year and a half. Because maybe if they had another year and a half, you probably could have had more engaging levels. You probably could have gotten rid of some of the open combat missions because those are they're so disjointed within the campaigns themselves. And you're just playing them like, this seems lazy. And I hate using that word because obviously the devs did everything they could do to get this game out on time. But it's just like, you just took, I don't know, like I didn't care for it.
I was really interested in hearing your thoughts because, like, I have Modern Warfare 3. They did send me a code. But I've been so busy with non-Xbox work that I haven't even had time to have a look at it. In fact, I don't even think I've installed it yet. And
Yes,
but
and I should mention that Activision sent me a code for the game.
Yeah, I should like against the backdrop of the Xbox tax, trending drama, which we're gonna talk about in a bit. And I suppose this whole situation kind of dovetails into it in a way. But against that backdrop, it kind of like I was really curious about your thoughts because I wanted to know: are the reviews taking it too far? Are they being extra? Are they being like, is it the Xbox tax? But it sounds like from what you're telling me that it did genuinely deserve some of those low scores.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about 4s.
Right.
I think
But he's part of this. Is that partially like backlash to the fact that it has been high quality previously, and that Modern Warfare 3's got a legacy to live up to, and that we have had a year with so many AAA bangers that it kind of feels like Activision should be more capable than this.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they have how many people do they say working on Call of Duty games? 3,000, right? They have like 2,000 or 3,000 people working on all the Call of Duty games at any given point in time. And it does feel like for a game that brings in so much money or whatever that you would expect, something better from it. But yeah, I mean, I know people were upset with the IGN review. They gave it a 4. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that it's a 4. As much as I didn't like the campaign, like I said, I don't think I'd rate it lower than a 5. And like a 5 is just, a 5's not good, right? As you start getting into like stuff like that, and I don't know. I think maybe it's it's a $70 DLC because at the time it was just the campaign came out first, right? So people are like, I paid $70 for this, even though like zombies and the multiplayer came with it. Yeah, it sort of feels like they were gonna skip a year, or this year was just gonna be multiplayer DLC, and then at some point they decided we can't do that. Because it sort of screwed up their dev cycle. Because you look at 2019 was the reboot of Modern Warfare, what Infinity Ward did. 2020 was Treyarch. They did Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. 2021 was Vanguard, right? So you had Infinity Ward, you had Treyarch, and then you had Sledgehammer. Sledgehammer did Vanguard, but Vanguard was awful because I guess they only had a year and a half to make that too. Because maybe I'm trying to remember who did the 2018 COD, but I'm not sure. And then 2022 was Infinity Ward with Modern Warfare 2, so they did it in a 3-year cycle. So you figure Treyarch would have been next on a typical 3-year cycle because their last game was 2020, but it wasn't. And all of a sudden it's Modern Warfare 3, but it's by Sledgehammer, but they just released the game 2 years ago. And I remember saying on Xbox 2 for like leading up to it, I remember I think I told you this, I'm like, I expected this game to be in the 60s. It's Metacritic. Because everything about it said is like they just had no time. You just had remastered maps from Modern Warfare 2. You had zombies, which is basically DMZ from Warzone, but replaced with zombies, right? And then you had a campaign that half of it reuses stuff from Warzone anyways, because it just didn't have any time to do it. So it seems like maybe Treyarch couldn't get their game done for this year or something, and then like we need to push it a year. So Treyarch's game comes out next year, right? Even though their last game was 2020. So maybe at some point they were like, we're not going to be done. And then they told Sledgehammer, you need to get this shit done in a year and a half. And you end up here. So, I mean, does that bode well for Treyarch next year? Because they would essentially have 4 years on their next Call of Duty, which nobody has had since like they started doing this back in 2007. Like, because
I think like, if you are building special Call of Duty, that maybe they're doing something, they're going further than the game's ever been, and they're gonna revitalize the franchise or whatever, and all this kind of stuff, and they're thinking like, we really have an opportunity here to really nail this and take Call of Duty to the next level. I suppose it would make sense to send out something to cash flow the operation, because this is about cash flow at the end of the day. They need some $70 thing for people to buy as part of the ritual to pay for all those devs, and that's why this exists. And clearly, at some point, they were like, "This can't just be a DLC. We can't do a $70 DLC. It's not going to work. We have to position this as something more. So here, throw some sort of campaign at this. Let's brand it Modern Warfare 3 or whatever." And at some point, the decision was made to send this out to die. And I think, like, you're probably right that maybe the fact that Treyarch's had 4 years probably does bode well. I would hope, but who knows? Who really knows? Maybe Jason Schreier knows, but
maybe Tom Henderson knows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, we saw this with Vanguard. People played Vanguard, they hated it. Microsoft even mentioned in their court documents with the case that 50 million people abandoned COD because of Vanguard or whatever it was. But those people all came back because of Modern Warfare 2 the following year. So even though Modern Warfare 3 is, I don't know how it's doing. I have seen people say the multiplayer is great, and maybe that's the only thing that really matters in the grand scope of things. So maybe next year's Treyarch game comes out and it's Call of Duty is really good again, or at least critically well received again. Who knows? But I do feel like
what about the Xbox tax?
Well, I don't think any of the reviews for Modern Warfare have anything to do with the Xbox tax. I just think it's a very mediocre experience that they're charging full price for. And I think Call of Duty's been better and should be better. And so when you get something like this, even though I will say the fact that they made it in a year and a half and they got this out of it is like, that's kind of impressive to me to a certain degree. Like, I didn't have that much fun with it, and there's, but it was like, they did it in such a short time frame that I was like, man, sort of wonder, like, what would happen if they had the full time. It's like kind of impressive to me, but whatever.
And there was that whole thing about their Advanced Warfare pitch being...
Yeah, God, I really wanted that. People talk about Advanced Warfare being like the last bad COD game or whatever, but it's like, I know a lot of people didn't like it because that's the one with Kevin Spacey. But like Advanced Warfare was a lot of fun, and then Infinite Warfare was great. I'm trying to think, what was 2018's? Was that World War II? I think that was World War II.
Yeah, I think Samuel Talbot just dropped that in chat.
Yeah, so like, no wonder, dude. Sledgehammer Games must hate it because
no, Samuel Talbot. 2018 was Black Ops 4 from Treyarch.
Okay, and then was so. Wait, did I get the timing messed up? Then
I don't know.
Was Call of Duty Call of Duty 2020 had to be that was Black Ops Cold War. That wasn't Vanguard. So like Treyarch pulled out Black Ops 4 was also
from memory.
Trying to. Black Ops 4 was the one that didn't launch with the campaign. That only launched with multiplayer, the Battle Royale mode and zombies, I think. They didn't launch with the campaign, and I was like, I didn't play that one because I was like, no campaign, I ain't playing it. So we'll see. I don't know how Microsoft's going to approach this. Do they need to constantly have a new COD every single year? Or can they, skip a year and make the experience better? I guess we'll eventually find out what their plans are with it. But we have MePuppet007 saying, Jez, if you're not aware, they have a portable that attaches to the Series S for $200.
Yeah, it's the UpSec gaming screen, right? I'm actually in touch with them, and I'll be maybe writing about it in December if I ever get chance to write anything ever again. But yeah, we'll see. It's those if you are referring to the attachable screen, that is, there has been some cool attachments for the Series S. Like I don't think Microsoft expected that screen to be created, but the fact that it's like it's a perfect rectangular cuboid kind of shape, it lends itself well to attachments. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it's like a happy accident, And I think it's quite interesting. They could build up a whole ecosystem if they had that kind of mentality about it. But we'll see where they take the next one if they do a split affordable and premium console next gen. Be interesting.
Nintendo Down the Otaku says GTA 6 could sell single player online and RP separately for $70 each, and people would still eat it up. BT Maverick says, would like to see someone that denies the Xbox tax, but read Metro's review of Hi-Fi Rush, whom will also affect Metacritic and get to vote for Game of the Year. Jez. We did bring that up to Paul Tassi, and he said that's just Metro being idiots. So
yeah, that is Metro being
but
idiots.
that
Like,
isn't...
if you know Metro's history, you know who they are and what they're
here's
about
the thing.
and who they're owned
Here's
by,
the thing.
then you know
What people will say,
about
Jez,
shit.
if it's one person doing it, who's to say it's not more? If there's one person that just is so casually would put it out in a review that, you know what, we can't review Hi-Fi Rush that high because of Xbox's release cadence in the previous years.
You've got to understand Daily Mail Group, man. Daily Mail Group is different. Daily Mail is the most read English website on earth because it is just clickbait, outrage, bullshit. They have mastered the art of the outrage bait, the entertaining outrage bait. They are the masters of it, and that's why they're so big. And Metro is part of the Daily Mail Group, So that's what they do. It's their business model. It's not journalism. It's infotainment, I guess you could call it.
Infotainment, interesting. Okay.
Infotainment.
We
So
gotta...
there are other companies that do this. So Fox News is an obvious one, and other outlets that sensationalize things and blur the lines between entertainment and news and stuff like that. It's just big in America, but in Britain, there's rules about what you can do on TV, but there's less rules about what you can do in newspaper. That's like why they do that stuff more in our newspapers here than on TV generally. It's weird, man. But yeah, Metro's a toilet paper. It's total trash. And that's why it's kind of shocking that they are part of Metacritic and they are part of the Game Awards stuff.
They are.
And it is because of who they're owned by. They're owned by the Daily Mail, which is one of the most, if not the most influential outlet on earth. They are a terrifying company. So if you want to get slandered and you want to lose a load of influence, you piss them off. So I if the Daily Mail came knocking to someone and they were like, let us be on Metacritic or whatever, or we'll write a hit piece about your outlet. I'm not saying they did do that. I'm not saying that's why they're on there, but it's kind of like this. They're a hugely influential sort of company, and they can do what they want basically.
Yeah.
Read about the Daily Mail. They are scary.
For Beast Paul says, Jez, with how much Xbox invested in ZeniMax Online and Machine Games got a new studio, what kind of investment do you expect for BGS with one of the most major sequels of all time in development?
Well, it's kind of interesting to think about it because Bethesda Game Studios. I suppose you're referring to Elder Scrolls, right?
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls has to be, exactly what fans want it to be, but also Elder Scrolls kind of has this legacy of taking the Bethesda formula to the next level, and I don't really think Starfield did that, And as much as I enjoyed Starfield, I think there are some design mistakes they made with the game, and I do think their engine sort of compromised their vision a little bit in some ways. The abundance of loading screens and the way that the space combat tied into the wider game. I think that was a reality of the engine not really fully supporting what they were trying to do with the game. But the engine is designed for the Elder Scrolls, and it's designed, for that sort of more tight, typical Bethesda experience. And I think even without a huge amount of investment, I think the game should flow a little bit better than Starfield, But there's other things about Starfield that sort of highlighted the need for more investment, I think. And one of that is technology that improves the performance of their NPCs. And part of this was the fact that it was coming out at roughly the same time as Cyberpunk's Cyberpunk expansion, and also Baldur's Gate, which obviously a very different kind of game, but also still has NPCs that are giving you RPG quests in, first person perspective. It's hard to ignore how much better the motion capture presentation is in those games when you're next to Starfield. And yeah, Starfield is potentially a much bigger game, much broader game, and that's what Bethesda games are known for. But I kind of feel like some of this stuff could be solved with technology, investment, and all that kind of stuff. So, do I think Microsoft will invest in growing that studio to really, really capitalize on this sort of vision of the ultimate Bethesda game? I think so, yes. I think they will invest. I think they will grow the studio, and I think like they'll be all hands on deck to sort of really put their mark on the first Bethesda Game Studios game that was Microsoft from the whole time, because Starfield was in development before Microsoft got involved, and the game was pretty much delayed because Microsoft was like, we can do more with this. It probably would have released in an even worse state, had it not been delayed. So yeah, I do think they'll get investment. How much investment, I don't know, but there's only so many devs out there at any one time.
Yeah.
Especially like when you consider the locality of the studio and stuff like that. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm pretty optimistic about that.
Nation says OpenAI put a statement. They said he's not been candid with his communications with the board. So that's like talking about, the guy that we mentioned earlier with OpenAI getting removed. Supernova says, Jez, what can we expect from the developer direct in January? Avowed, Hellblade, New Doom, Project Odyssey, question mark? I mean, we don't know if there's...
That?
He wants to know what can we expect from the developer direct in January. I mean, you're assuming there is one in January.
I haven't heard there's a developer direct in January. I mean, but I suspect after last year's leak, they'll probably work a little bit harder to keep it under wraps.
Yeah, just because they did one in January last year doesn't mean you're going to see one in January every year.
Yeah, they might do one.
I think they will do one. Who knows if it'll be in January? Maybe it's in February. Because if it's in January, they probably would have to start filming that soon. Right?
Yeah, you think so?
Or talking about it at least internally. Lurking with my Gherkin says, how many more console generations do you think we'll have? I see Xbox having one more, Sony 2, and Nintendo making the switch until they're purchased. I mean, I sort of mentioned that earlier. There's at least one more generation for Sony and for us, or for Xbox and PlayStation. Nintendo, maybe they'll always do it. I just don't know 13 years from now, like how much technology could change. And, one of the things that I think Sony even mentioned with their margins and stuff is like, they're losing money on the consoles, Xbox losing money on consoles. I just don't think anybody's ready for a hardcore switch to, all right, now consoles are just streaming. I don't think anybody's ready for that. And I thought it would take like people. This gen would be like people getting prepared for it, and then next generation to get people to sort of accept it. But I'm not even sure this gen even got people ready for it or prepared for it, because it really hasn't been a thing. So, but I don't know. It's too hard.
I'm going to be more optimistic than you. I think there's at least two more Xbox generations.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and by that point you're 2035 to then 20. You're in your 2040s, bro. That's like, yeah.
And the reason for that is I think they'll use the server runtime for AI rather than cloud streaming.
Yeah. We got Jodicus saying, okay, I'm not defending COD, but was it a 4 out of 10 level of bad on the level of unplayable? No, I don't think it was a 4 out of 10. At the lowest, I'd give it a 5. Highest, I'd give it a 6. But it definitely was the worst Call of Duty campaign I've ever played. By far, without a doubt.
Did you play Ghosts?
Yes, and Ghosts was better.
Wow. Because people didn't like that one, right?
Yeah, I mean, people always don't like certain ones. Alvin says, it's not ideal, but in the long run, it's worth the 14-month COD Rush job to get away from the Sony contract a year quicker. Yeah, but I'm not sure that's the reason Activision did that, though. I don't think they would care about getting rid of that earlier. I think it was just more like, oh, well, maybe we should do this. Maybe the deal's not going through. And if that's the case, then our stock price will tank. I don't know the reasons why, but I doubt it's for that reason. Maybe that's benefits Microsoft because maybe now they can have marketing next year with the Treyarch game that has an extra long development cycle, and next year's COD game, when you think about it, probably will be the biggest Xbox release of all time.
Yeah,
right?
I guess so.
You think about it. I mean, you could probably
well.
say this game, this Modern Warfare 3, was the biggest Xbox release ever.
Yeah.
They've only they only had acquired them, a couple weeks beforehand. So, Juan says, "What are you eating, Rand? Share with the class." I had some like 4 chocolate chip cookies I was eating. I thought Jez was going to. I thought Jez was going to talk a little bit longer, so I muted my mic and I was eating it. And then I had to say something.
Notice.
Yeah, but I was like, all right, and I was like finishing chewing. Yeah, I had some cookies because this is a long podcast, and it was like I need to refuel.
I haven't had dinner yet, so
Joshua says Xbox enters the critical status in the Game of the Year convo when their quality control and content and policy is finally on par with the other big two. Recovering from one and growth has halted their focus there, in my opinion. Okay, well that's a good.
Yeah, they do have focus issues, I think, sometimes.
I want to say we're going to end this poll here that we started an hour ago. Would you buy Grand Theft Auto 6 for, if the starting price was $100? 78% said no, and 32% said yes. Right?
That's a lot of people who said yes, and I suspect some of those people
guess
who
what?
said no.
We should wait to have that, and when the FOMO kicks in, when the game's actually out, you can see it, and then it's like, all right, am I not really playing it? Yeah. So let's talk about the Game Awards. Right? Let's talk about the drama with the Game Awards. So I guess I don't even know how you want to even talk about this, because I guess overall, how do you feel about the Game Awards? Is there any like big snubs that come to mind? Any things that you would change? How would you change the Game Awards? Jez?
Okay. Well, man, it's kind of like I'm over the Game Awards as being a sort of a bastion of truth within the gaming industry, and it I suppose it was ridiculous to ever think of it as that. And I wasn't really aware of the Game Awards that much until I started doing the whole the whole journalism thing. So like, and I wasn't aware of like how they pick the jury members or how the jury operates and all that kind of stuff. So like, now that I'm more sort of clued up about it, I know that it is just basically, not a particularly great pool of representation, frankly, of the opinions that are out there. And there are like the game, but it's like, Paul Tassi was talking about this as well on our Xbox 2+1, and I agree with him. And his take was essentially that, like, it's similar with the Oscars. You get these specific games that are these specific movies that are sort of award bait and are more well known, and they've got a lot of hype around them. But then there might be like this indie movie that was really, really good and no one's really heard of it because it just didn't have that hype cycle around it. But with gaming, it goes to another level, because there are so many games out there that are so played and so popular, but we never hear about them. We never talk about them. And these are like your mobile games that are huge in different countries and other kinds of stuff. Like, do they deserve some kind of representation? They're making huge amounts of money and giving people a lot of fun. Do they deserve some representation? And I was saying on Twitter that it was a joke that Diablo wasn't nominated for art direction, because I kind of feel like Diablo 4 probably had the best cinematics in gaming history. And I kind of felt like they deserved some recognition for that over some of the other nominations. And I kind of feel like, it's clear that a lot of the journalists who were picking this stuff, they're just not that into Diablo. And that's why it was forgotten. And I kind of feel like if I sat there and, if I'd had a chance myself to pitch to the jury and be like, look, this is what you're overlooking here, I kind of feel like I would have swayed some people, But it's not a big deal. we're here for the trailers. At least I am.
Yeah, that's the thing. For me, the Game Awards is literally a marketing event. That's all it is, right? It's and I don't know why people get so up in arms about, you know, games missing or games not missing or whatever, because essentially at its core, it's just a way to sell you the next product and get, you know, excited for the next game. That's all it is, right? It's not. I mean, I know it's presented as a celebration of gaming, and I do like the fact that Jeff is doing it. But at the end of the day, it's a marketing event for him and for the game studios. Because the only reason people watch this is for the worldwide reveals, the new trailers. Like, nobody's really watching it to see who wins the awards, right? Because that's not important. In fact, you know, during the awards ceremony itself, sometimes they'll just be like, and the winner of this was, you know, they'll do award winners off screen.
You hate that, don't you?
I do, because when you're because they compare themselves to they're the Oscars for gaming, and I think that's bullshit. Because when the Oscars, you know, the prestige movie show, the people who vote on the Oscars are the people in the Academy. It's the directors, it's the writers, it's the actors, it's the producers, it's people involved in the film industry, right? There is a show that is critics-based in film and TV. It's called the Critics' Choice Awards. That's what this is. The Game Awards is not the Oscars for the video games. The Game Awards is the Critics' Choice Awards. But somehow it's morphed into this is the Oscars for gaming. No, it's the Critics' Choice Awards, because the people choosing who wins are the critics. Just like the Critics' Choice Awards. But you know who talks about the Critics' Choice Awards? Nobody. Because nobody cares about the critics' choices. Nobody even really cares about the people's choices. Everybody only talks about the Oscars because they're the one that are voted on by the people within the industry. So like the Oscars for gaming would be the DICE Awards. And you know, I've talked to a few devs, and those are the awards that they want to win. They want to win the DICE Awards because it's voted on by their peers. Whereas the Game Awards is just a marketing hype. It's just marketing. That's all it is. And it has more in common with the Critics' Choice Awards, but because there are no events on this scale, it gets this over importance to it, where everybody's just like whatever. And so I mean, you look at like here, like we'll just mention one. Best indie game, Dave the Diver? How is Dave the Diver an indie game? And I know that it's like, what is an indie game or whatever, but really? Because this kind of goes to this idea of like, I don't really think the San Fran Cabal, I don't really think a lot of the people on the panels really play a lot of these games. I think they play like the most popular ones, but I think for the most part, they're not really involved with voting on some of these quote unquote would be lesser categories, right? Like you look at like strategy and sim, and I've seen people who actually freelancers who do the reviews for these websites are like, yeah, nobody at these websites are actually playing any of these games. That's why it's like, you know, something like City Skylines 2 is nominated when the reviews for that aren't that positive, you know what I mean? And actual like really good strategy games and stuff aren't on that list. Or if you get the ongoing stuff, it's just, you know, the biggest stuff imaginable. It's the Genshin Impacts, it's your Apex Legends, it's your Fortnites, right? It's just because that's just like the big name. And that sort of ties into what I was going to talk about with Xbox. But yeah, there's some weird things with the Game Awards, because if you look at it, for example, Best RPG, right? It's like Starfield, it's Sea of Stars, it's Final Fantasy 16, which should not be in the RPG category. Final Fantasy 16 is not an RPG. It is an action game. What is it doing in our Best RPG? I don't know. Did anybody actually play that game? I guess not, because I have no clue how that's in the Best RPG category. But either way. And then finally, Baldur's Gate 3. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait a minute. How is... That category's already won. Because Baldur's Gate 3 is nominated for Game of the Year, but it's also in the best RPG category, along with other games that are not nominated for Game of the Year. So how is it possible for any of those other games to beat Baldur's Gate 3? It's not. So it's like sort of a farce. You know? How is Sea of Stars supposed to beat Baldur's Gate when it's not nominated for Game of the Year? So you already know the outcome of that one. And not only that, but Best Action Adventure. 4 of the 6 Game of the Year contenders are in that category. Right? Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, Legend of Zelda, I'm forgetting one, and Star Wars Jedi Survivor, right? But the thing is, if Alan Wake 2 wins Best Action Adventure over Spider-Man 2 and over Legend of Zelda and whatever the other game I'm missing, how can Spider-Man 2 then win Game of the Year? If it couldn't even beat Alan Wake 2 for Action Adventure. You know what I mean?
How does the Oscars do it?
The Oscars don't have those sort of things. Oscars has Best Picture, and they have like Best Director, they have Best Actor, Best Actress. They don't have like Best Genre Picture, right? That's the sort of thing here. Like you have these categories for the games that are all made up, and then they kind of merge into Best Game. But like those games are also nominated in each individual categories. So it's like, well, you know, yeah, if Alan Wake 2 wins Best Action Adventure, then any of those other 4 games in that category can't win Game of the Year if it's being voted on in the correct manner. I would guess. I guess it's possible it wouldn't be, but you know, I that's one of the things I see. Like, how could Zelda win if how could Zelda win Game of the Year if it didn't win Best Action Adventure Game? Right? Like, how's that possible? So there are weird things. There is some drama with the esports stuff where like some guy was nominated for Best Esports Coach, and he was like, I didn't even coach this year, dog. You know what I mean? And it kind of raises like, okay, well, how do you get that wrong? Right? You know, as far as like Game of the Year, would I remove anything, or am I upset that Starfield didn't make it? No, I didn't think Starfield would make it. And we did our predictions for what would get in there. And I think I've been saying for a while I didn't expect Starfield to get nominated. I think I've been saying the one that had a better chance of getting in for Xbox was Hi-Fi Rush. And Hi-Fi Rush did get 5 nominations to Starfield's 1 and I think Forza Motorsports 2 or whatever it was, and Diablo's 2. Because when you look at...
You did say, I think we both said we didn't expect
when you look at who is on the panel... And you look at like how they rated Starfield, you knew there wasn't going to make it on the list. You know, am I upset that it didn't make it? I mean, like, but here's the thing: like, it doesn't really matter to me who wins the Keeleys because I have my own personal, opinion of what like my favorite game of the year, right? Because like Baldur's Gate 3 is probably going to win, and I haven't played it. So to me, my game of the year is Alan Wake 2. You know, I guess there's the other part of these awards is if I was voting on it. Like, imagine the Xbox 2 was on the panel and we got to vote on Game of the Year. Would it be fair if I voted on it because I wouldn't have played 3 of the 6 games, right? I haven't played Baldur's Gate, and I haven't played Super Mario Wonder, and I haven't played Zelda. So if I was voting on it, I'd vote Alan Wake 2. But I haven't played half the games. So is that like fair for me to vote on it when I haven't played half that stuff? Because that's what happens in the Oscars. You have like a whole bunch of these nominees, and it's been reported that most Academy members only watch like 3 or 4 of the movies. They don't watch all the nominees. They're only watching like a few. So like, you know, does that matter? Should, you know?
I mean, it'd be tough to play every single game that deserves an accolade. You know?
Yeah, but that's where like IGN and like IGN's like a whole group of people, and you know, Kind of Funny is a whole group of people, right? It's not like one but like in the Academy, it's one person or whatever. But does that say about like, hey, well, that's not right? If you're not playing everything, if you haven't played all 6 games, then you shouldn't be voting on it. You know?
I mean, yeah. I mean, in a perfect world, they'd be giving out codes and saying like, these are the nominations. Go away and play them. But it's also kind of like, can you expect people to put that much into it when they're probably not being paid for it? And as the goblins in Warcraft say, time is money, friend. And it's kind of like, I personally wouldn't have time to play 6 games within like however long, a month, 2 months, 3 months even.
Yeah, but I mean, that's
Not
all I
on
think.
that character.
Recency bias, like Super Mario Wonder, Alan Wake 2, and Spider-Man 2 all came out within like a couple weeks of the nominations ending. But then there's also the cutoff date. Josh Sawyer called them out on Twitter, being like,
Oh,
how is the cutoff date November 17th, but the announcements for the games in it are November 13th? Right? Because Pentiment had come out, you know what I mean? Like, Pentiment had released on whatever it was, so he was like, that's kind of weird. And it is weird. And there was some kind of, I remember people saying like, well, Forza.
I made all that drama that year about Forza.
About Forza Horizon, and like how
fun.
like it wasn't on the ballots or whatever. People had to like write it in.
When they all decided they hated me, was because of that.
Yeah, they
that
did.
Fun.
Or ongoing game, and this ties in more into like the Xbox tax thing, because to come out of this, a lot of Xbox fans were really upset because Starfield or Hi-Fi Rush didn't get nominated, and I do feel Hi-Fi Rush probably deserves it more than Starfield. And if you were to say which one would you remove? Oh, and I remember the one that was an action adventure. It was Resident Evil 4. Was in that category. So it was like Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, Resident Evil 4, and
they don't have a best horror character, do they?
No, they don't have a best horror game. But a lot of people feel like Resident Evil 4 shouldn't be there because it's clogging. It's like clogging a spot, and I guess you can make that argument, because if you look at the best pictures by category, like the most nominated games, you have 8 nominations for Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. You have 7 nominations for Spider-Man 2, and you have 5 nominations for Hi-Fi Rush, Super Mario Wonder, and Zelda. Guess what? Those are all the Game of the Year contenders, except for Hi-Fi Rush, right? Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Wonder, and Legend of Zelda. 3, so what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of the 6 games are also the most nominated, except for Hi-Fi Rush. And it's like, okay, well, what's the next most nominated? 4 nominations for Cyberpunk 2077, which got ongoing, which some people weren't happy with, because like, how could you give that an ongoing game? I mean, it didn't say multiplayer, so I guess they're okay. Whatever. Final Fantasy 16 got 4, and then 3 nominations for Resident Evil 4 and Street Fighter 6. Now, I was confident that Resident Evil 4 was going to get a Game of the Year nomination because the reviews were really high, the people on the panel loved Resident Evil 4, and because they just have a hard-on for Resident Evil. Resident Evil 2 was nominated in 2019 for Game of the Year, and Resident Evil Village was nominated in 2021. So, in my mind, I knew Resident Evil 4 was getting in, right? But if you look at this list, and it's like, you know what? I think the game that got snubbed, that should have been in there, that maybe Resident Evil 4 pushed out, is Hi-Fi Rush. It got 5 nominations, the same number as Super Mario Wonder and Zelda. I think Hi-Fi Rush is like, if you got to see what the rest of the like the 1 through 10, right, where the top 6 get the nominations, I bet you Hi-Fi Rush is probably number 7.
I agree.
Or I don't think Starfield. I don't think Starfield's got 1. So people are like, how could Starfield not get a best score or whatever? And then of course there's the Hogwarts drama. Hogwarts, like the best-selling game of the year, no representation for anything. You even have people suggesting that outlets didn't vote for it because they don't want to be involved in any of the drama that game brings, right?
It's so annoying because J.K. Rowling, she created the IP, but regardless of the drama, she was not involved in this game in any way, shape, or form. And the game was hundreds of diverse voices built that game, and they're sort of like, I don't know, it's just not fair. frankly
But I
speaking.
mean, it's like, but do you think
You know,
about it? Like,
it's
what would it have been nominated for? Let me ask you this: if you like Hogwarts Legacy, I don't think would have
surely
been.
it's action adventure, right?
Well, that's the
No.
thing. That's the thing. I would say to you, it's not Game of the Year worthy, or at least I wouldn't vote for it. So you would say Best Action Adventure, but guess what? It's not beating out Alan Wake 2. It's not beating out Spider-Man 2. It's not beating out Resident Evil 4, and it's not beating out Zelda. So like, and the other one in there is Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is higher rated. So it's like, okay, it's not beating out any of those other games for action adventure. Should Hogwarts be an RPG? If Final Fantasy 16 could be in the RPG category, why not Hogwarts Legacy, right? Even though it really doesn't fit.
Got those quote unquote RPG mechanics.
Yeah, but so it's like maybe if you did it there, I don't know. But I sort of feel like I don't know where Hogwarts would have gotten a nomination at, but I do feel that people didn't want to vote for it because they didn't want to. They didn't want any of that the drama to follow. But then it's like, well, if you're not voting for games because of one thing, because of this, does that also mean you're not going to vote for other games because of other reasons as well? Because it opens up a whole can of worms. If you're admitting that you're not voting for something for one particular reason, does that mean that you might not vote for something for another particular reason? Right? I mean, there's
precludes the quality of the game.
That precludes the quality of the game. So, is there any more like oddities from the Game Awards we want to talk about? Really?
Nah, I mean, I did see a super chat from Collingwood who said, Jez, what is your negative article about the Game Awards going to be this year? I'm not going to write one because it's just not that important to me. You know, I think like, well, first of all, it's on at midnight in Europe, I think, or 1 a.m. for me. So I ain't going to be watching it unless my sleep pattern's really screwed up that week. And it probably won't be screwed up because I've got shifts for Black Friday to do. So it's really not on my mind at the moment. But I don't think there's much more I can add that hasn't already been said. Keighley hasn't really evolved the format of the show at all. And I think like he doesn't need to because it's growing year over year. Exponentially, and people are showing up because it's another E3. It's the E3 of winter now, regardless of the quality of the awards and stuff like that. And honestly, I think the drama and the controversy around who got snubbed and nominations and all this kind of stuff, the fact that we've been talking about it for like half an hour, that
hasn't
serves
been that much. I think it's maybe like approaching 20 minutes.
Well, even still, it's like the controversy about the Game Awards has generated a lot of discussion, which markets the Game Awards, which is ultimately what they want. They want eyeballs on those trailers. So I think it kind of the sort of weird format they've got going for it really serves the purpose of creating spectacle, which is really what it's about. It's about spectacle. It's about the trailers. It's about weird stuff happening, like the Oscars, even though like, you could call some of the stuff that happened last year like a security lapse, which in hindsight, maybe you think, oh, that's kind of funny, but it could very well have not been kind of funny, if something bad had happened. So yeah, but again, it serves a purpose of creating drama, spectacle, and driving people to go and watch it.
Yeah, Jeff's loving all this, bro, because all this is it's marketing for the show. You're talking about this stuff. We're talking about it. It's he loves it. I mean, he even 6 hours in, he's like, "How are we all feeling about the awards?" He loves that stuff because it keeps the Game Awards on the tips of everybody's tongue. Even Joe Munger in Super Chat, he says, "Dave the Diver in indie makes sense. Every indie has a publisher on that list. That's where it fits. It's $20." Yeah, but like there's indie publishers like Annapurna or Devolver Digital, and then there's Dave the Diver, who's owned by who, Jez?
Nikon, isn't it? Nikon?
I think so.
And yeah, so like Nikon's a massive tech company. They make hardware. I've got a email from them in my inbox right now talking about a new Xbox controller they made. So, and I think that the real kicker is that even the devs and even Nikon said it wasn't an indie. It was like they said like it's like an indie, it's a smaller project, but we don't consider it an indie because obviously it's not an indie, you know.
Yeah.
And they're true independent devs who are like, you know, doing it solo, who probably deserved a bit more recognition than Dave the Diver, which oh yeah, sorry, Nexon, not Nacon. I got them mixed up. Everyone in chat. Thanks for the correction. You could see why I made that mistake, right? Yeah, Nexon, they make the Korean MMOs and stuff like that. But yeah, huge company, and stuff, and it's kind of yeah, just is what it is, I guess. It's probably, but again, like no explanation offered, no sort of like, you know, acknowledgement of the drama, because again, it serves its purpose.
Well,
And
I saw like Greg Miller say, so can we just say, imagine if Naughty Dog, you know, had a team splinter off, 10 person team to make a really small indie game. Could we nominate that for indie game, even though they're part of Naughty Dog, which is a part of Sony PlayStation? It's like, of course
like
not.
Pentiment,
You know,
does that mean Pentiment was nominated for indie game? You know,
was
should Pentiment be nominated for indie game?
was was Pentiment nominated for anything last year?
I can't remember. But like it's the same argument, right? Should it be nominated for indie game? Because it was a splinter group of Obsidian, which is a subsidiary of Microsoft.
Anybody in chat know did Pentiment, was it nominated for any awards last year, or was it because of the cutoff? Because I know Josh Schor was complaining about that on Twitter. I'm trying to remember if Pentiment was nominated for anything.
I don't think it was,
but I don't think it was, because it was highly rated. Like Pentiment, I think it's like an 87 or an 86. So we have Supernova saying no, that it wasn't. And Zach Riley says no, Pentiment missed the cut. So, yeah, and NC says no, it was the North. So there you go. But I guess, you know, by the Dave the Diver argument then, or even the argument that Greg is making, then Pentiment should have been nominated for Best Indie because it's a splinter group of Obsidian. And, you know, they're obviously part of Microsoft. So, yeah. We also have a super chat here from Honcho Reckless saying, Rand, you keep saying San Fran Cabal and Baldur's Gate 3 will probably win, but those same Cabals haven't gotten past Act 1, but they 100% have beaten Alan Wake 2. Well, it's because Alan Wake 2 is the type of game they probably enjoy. And Baldur's Gate 3 isn't.
Me and Rand were talking about, like, you know, how we'd solve it, and I was saying like you should diversify the panel and maybe add, you know, more people who've got different opinions. But then I had to concede. I probably would have voted Baldur's Gate 3 as well because it's that damn good. But you know, I think a different panel probably would have given, you know, if there was more voices on the panel, you know, maybe voices from, you know, more Xbox leaning outlets. You know, and I'm not saying Windows Central. I don't care to be on the panel or whatever. But, you know, Xbox leaning YouTubers or podcasters or whatever. What if they might have voted in Hi-Fi Rush? You know, if it was a little bit more balanced.
Well, so this is where the Xbox tax discussion comes in, right? You mentioned Hi-Fi Rush. I mentioned that I think Hi-Fi Rush is like number 7 or number 8 on the Game of the Year list, like just missed out on it. But some people will say this is the Xbox tax that like, and there's a whole bunch that goes into it. So I'll just mention a few things that people have told me. That if Hi-Fi Rush was published by Nintendo or PlayStation, that not only would it be higher rated, it would be nominated for Game of the Year, right? And you can make the same argument for Starfield, they say. If Starfield was nominated, if Starfield was published by PlayStation or Multiplat, and Bethesda was never purchased, then it would be higher rated and also Game of the Year contender. Obviously, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, that it's the Xbox tax, because now it's owned by Xbox, so now it's open season on review scores on the game, right? Despite the game not being that good in the first place. And obviously, you know, we brought this up with Paul. He vehemently disagrees. You know, there was that one review from Metro that said he couldn't rate Hi-Fi Rush that high because of, you know, the lack of quality exclusives that Xbox was having, right? Which is something ridiculous when on face value, and it's a reason never to read Metro ever again, or never to at least read anything by that reviewer again if you're putting the release schedule or the exclusives on a platform and somehow factoring in it to a game. Like, that just seems so wrong to me on every level of how I would think about a game. But
it's like controversy.
Yeah,
it's what they do. It's what the Daily
people
Mail
say
group
that
does.
hey, best ongoing support should have had Halo Infinite. Seeing this resurgence, and even Paul Tassi agreed with us. Paul Tassi said absolutely Halo Infinite should have been there. And, Sea of Thieves. I saw Sea of Thieves even sort of trolling the Game Awards with some of their tweets being like, one day we'll get in, right? How unpopular Sea of Thieves is but has never been once nominated for the Game Awards, right? Yeah. Never once for ongoing things. So, now bear with me here, Jez, okay? Don't, because I have a lot to say.
I'm bearing.
The Xbox tax. Is it real? Does it exist? I think the answer is yes, but not in the way you think.
Dun dun dun.
I think
I'm sitting forward now.
I think it exists.
Let's hear it, Rand.
In this way, because I think it's the Xbox tax is essentially the people in the press not caring about the platform enough to have enough people who play on the platform, who play the games, which is why you don't see a game like Halo Infinite or Sea of Thieves receiving nominations for ongoing games, because, quite frankly, people in the industry don't play on Xbox. They don't play Halo Infinite, and they don't play Sea of Thieves, so they can't receive any nominations. When you look at multi-platform reviews of games that come out, the vast majority of reviews are on PlayStation. And that's not a problem, but that's part of what I'm talking about. It's because Xbox is a secondary console to, I think, a lot of people. And it's not thought about and it's not played enough by them. So by default, Starfield and Hi-Fi Rush don't have the champions within those companies that could be like, I really love Hi-Fi Rush, and then all the other people would say, me too, we're putting it on there. It's maybe just one person or two, where everybody else plays on Nintendo and they play on PlayStation. So you have a whole bunch of people that like Zelda, yes, Zelda, of course I agree, Mario Wonder, absolutely. And, PlayStation with Spider-Man 2. So, like, to me, the tax is the disproportionate amount of how the media doesn't really play on the system, which you can say is Xbox's big problem. Their biggest problem since, Xbox One, where the platform was viewed as a joke, right? Now, I say this because also one of the reasons it reinforced my idea about this is because I don't know if you saw this article the other day, Jez, but it was from Polygon, right? Mm-hmm. And it was, everyone slept on Quantum Break, but you don't have to. And I was thinking to myself, man, this is fitting. That suddenly, after Alan Wake 2, which everybody loves, now people are like, man, Quantum Break 2 never got the kudos it deserved. And I was somebody that said Quantum Break was a better game than Control. It had a better story. It had better powers. It had better actors. Like, everything about Quantum Break was better than Control, but Control reviewed higher and was also nominated for Game of the Year, right? So I was reading this article, and it starts off here. And this is the Xbox tax that I'm really talking about here. It says, article starts off, I don't particularly blame anyone for missing Remedy's 2016 TV show action game hybrid Quantum Break. There were, frankly, a dozen reasons to be perplexed by it. Like the fact that it was a TV show, action game hybrid, or that it was inextricably tied up in Microsoft's failed effort to make the Xbox One an all-entertainment platform. And I was like, why? What? But it really
What does that factor into the quality of the game?
But it really gets going here, Jez. When Quantum Break was released, Remedy wasn't the story. The Xbox One was. Microsoft positioned every new exclusive as a potential system seller that would rival Sony's first-party stable, and most critics evaluated it on that basis. I read this, like, first two paragraphs.
Isn't that an admission?
That's my whole point, is I'm trying to say here, is that PlayStation and Nintendo are, like, the default consoles. Everybody in these, like, websites, and that's where the majority where they play on, they have their champions or whatever. Xbox is the third place console, right? Xbox was looked at as a joke in last generation, right? You can talk about, does somebody have like a bias where they say review a game and it's like, well, this game would normally be a 9, but I'd rate it a 7 because Xbox. Normally I would say no, because I don't review games like that. I can't imagine somebody else doing it. So I would say no. Maybe they have an unconscious bias. Even though we have someone from Metro admitting basically that, like, I couldn't review this game that high because of Xbox's release score. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Like, you judge the game based on the game. But then Polygon's out here saying that, people didn't play Quantum Break, and it's really because of Microsoft's failed investment or the failed, effort of Xbox One, and that Quantum Break was reviewed, basically, it was an evaluation of the platform rather than the game itself. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've heard, but that's like almost in line with sort of what the Metro reviewer was saying to a certain extent, right? When Quantum Break was released, Remedy wasn't the story, the Xbox One was. Microsoft positioned every new exclusive as a potential system seller that will rival Sony's first-party stable, and most critics evaluated it on that basis. What? First off, let's get rid of the this notion here, this revisionist history that somehow the beginning of the Xbox One PlayStation generation, that Sony was releasing bangers every single year, because that's far from the truth. That is so wrong, it's not even funny. But it's interesting to see it positioned here that, hey, Sony's first party games, by the time Quantum Break came out, were what? It was launch titles of Killzone, Shadowfall, and Knack. Ugh, right? You had early the following year in 2014, you had Infamous Second Son, which did well. And I don't even think they had anything else that year. 2015 was Bloodborne, which people loved, and also like the Uncharted collection. I guess you could also say The Last of Us remaster, I think, was 2014. You even had critics saying, PlayStation doesn't have a lot of releases this year, and that's why it's genius, and it's genius, or whatever what it was talking about.
I remember that. Yeah.
They didn't have anything. So when Quantum Break came out in 2016, Xbox actually had a better exclusive lineup for those years up until that point. Like, PlayStation didn't have, or at least PlayStation's first party wasn't the huge 800-pound gorilla that people think of it as now until later in the generation. So it's interesting to read the revisionist history here by Polygon saying, that would rival Sony's first party stable, which whatever. But the idea of evaluating a game based on the platform and the position the platform was in is this idea that I don't agree with and I think is bullshit. But then Polygon straight up admitting it in this article, and so to me it's like, I think that's what the Xbox tax is. It's
incidental, is what you're saying.
It's because Xbox is not the primary console, that the people within the websites or whatever covering it maybe aren't necessarily giving the games a full shake. They're doing exactly what Polygon said they were doing in Quantum Break, is that it's an evaluation of the ecosystem, not the game itself. So how often was it touted beforehand with Starfield that Starfield needed to be the game of the generation for Xbox? That it needed to be an 11 out of 10, that it needed to do this, that it needed to save Xbox. These were common things said by a bunch of different outlets before Starfield had come out. Did that sort of talking point lead them to then play the game and review it differently than they would have? Because I just think of Quantum Break as Quantum Break, and I was like, is the game good based on its own merits? But I mean, here you have a website admitting that that wasn't necessarily the case. So
I wonder, I wonder if the backlash Xbox has, the generalized backlash, the Xbox tax in the way we're describing it here right now. I wonder if this is kind of similar to the way people are backlashing now about the abundance of different streaming services out there.
mhm,
Almost like it's a resentment that has to be three platforms, and that people would maybe prefer less platforms, less FOMO, and less feeling like, oh well, if I want to play this game, I have to get an Xbox, and the sort of, and sort of extrapolating that into their work essentially, because to work in this industry, you kind of have to be a gamer, and every gamer sort of feels a certain way about things. I have a weird position in this industry, and I think the reason that I'm able to have this position that I have is because of the Xbox tax, because there isn't enough people in journalism to give Xbox a fair shake. I don't think I would have such like I don't think I would have had the audience that I would have had if Xbox was being fairly represented in the wider gaming press. And that was kind of like the whole one of the inspirations for me even starting a blog in the first place, was that I felt like people weren't representing this stuff properly. Like, I gave Quantum Break a 9 out of 10 when I reviewed that. I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I was on the record of loving it. And I remember feeling weird about Control, and the way you know everyone seemed to give that game so many flowers when they ignored Quantum Break, which was a better game overall. For sure it was, And you you don't want to think like about conspiracy theories and that like people are trying to intentionally undermine Xbox, because I honestly doubt that's the case. But I think it is, just like you say, it's all incidental. People have a platform preference, and like
mhm.
the same game journalists who, calling me a Microsoft lapdog and stuff, they just sort of hide their platform preference behind being a
Yeah.
multi-platform site
And
that still, at its core, considers Xbox to be an afterthought.
so this is
And
this is what it would
yeah,
be. So this is what I kind of mean is like I think if Hi-Fi Rush, I think if Xbox was the dominant platform, like PlayStation is, if more people played on Xbox than PlayStation, I think because of that, Hi-Fi Rush is nominated for Game of the Year because there'd be more critics that would essentially play on the system. That's what I think the
or even,
Xbox tax
I think,
is
yeah,
really.
in fact,
Um,
they probably hadn't even known it, I mean, they probably knew it existed, but they probably
that's why
haven't
you
played
don't
it
see
because they
Halo
don't own
Infinite.
an X.
That's why you don't see Halo Infinite nominated for ongoing game or Sea of Thieves because the people who vote on the awards don't play on Xbox like that, and they certainly don't play those games. How are they going to vote for it, right?
Yeah.
At least that's what I think of Xbox tax when I think of it. It's basically Microsoft's
Incidental.
system is it's the third place system. Less people play on it, less critics play on it, and for those reasons, things don't essentially like Dave Ramos says in the super chat. Sony's console market dominance equals more people play games on PlayStation than Xbox. It's reasonable. The same is true for critics. That's the Xbox tax. And
Mm.
I would push back on like, oh, I'm intentionally rating a game lower for this reason. Like, even though we have someone from Metro saying it, because it just doesn't jive with how I think about video games. But then I read something from Polygon, and I read this, and I'm just like, is this how critics review games? Are they actually reviewing the platform when they're talking about the game itself and not the game? And I don't know. It's just so casually it's just thrown out there that was like, well, maybe this is how. And you know what? Any of you out there as old as me who's maybe was surfing around like the days of NeoGAF. If anybody here remembers NeoGAF.
Still
And
exists, doesn't it?
well, it still exists, but nobody really uses it, right? Everybody migrated over to Reset Era. But I remember a time where during the Wii U era where you had the blackboard. Does anybody here remember the blackboard? Where fans of the platform would say X game would save the Wii U. And it would be every exclusive that would be coming out for the Wii U. And when it released, they would draw like a line through it. And the same thing happened with the PS3. There was also a PS3 blackboard. And every single thing, every single game, every single price drop, every single, slim, they would put, oh, Metal Gear Solid 4 is going to save PlayStation, then like it didn't, and then boom, and then it was like the next game and the next game, and they kept on having to cross it out, right? And I still think we're in this era where like I think some critics and some fans don't know whether or not Xbox is a monopoly or Xbox is about to leave the industry or become a third-party publisher, right? I still think there's people out there who talk about this idea that Xbox needs to be saved. And I think some people might view the platform, might view the games that they're reviewing through that lens. So like Quantum Break was a victim of it because it wasn't about the game, it was about Xbox One and it needing to be saved. And could it do it? And it was like, no, it didn't, right? I still think maybe there's some of that going on here. At least, I don't know. That's my position on it, essentially.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, it's weird because like I rarely get the perspectives of game journalists because I just don't know that many game journalists in the industry. They don't care to know me, and I kind of feel like that's my Xbox tax. I cover Xbox, so I'm not a real journalist, and I kind of felt that kind of exclusionary hostility from day zero before I'd said things that pissed everyone off. But it's fine, you know. I would love to know more about the thought processes that goes into, you know, multi-platform stuff because I cover Xbox from a completely different angle. I cover it as we're a tech site first, and we're tech journalists first, and we think about it as part of the Microsoft ecosystem because we are a Microsoft ecosystem blog, and a lot of people are interested in Microsoft general news because Microsoft has a lot of shareholders, so they want to know what's going on in the world of Microsoft, and that's always been our business model since we were called Windows Phone Central, and then we had to pivot because look what happened, you know. But that's why, like, when I review a game, I don't think of it in terms of like this needs to save the Xbox platform because that's all we cover, you know. And I kind of feel like as a result, we have maybe a different perspective on things. Things aren't so desperate. I don't need Starfield to be flawlessly perfect for me to sort of give it its flowers or celebrate what it did well or what it did wrong. And I think my other writers feel the same way about it as well, because they are Xbox fans and they are, you know, in that ecosystem and they're invested in that ecosystem. I think that's why, like, you know, it's so weird sometimes, you know, when you're talking to other people in the industry and they are multi-platform. Oh well, whatever.
I don't know if you saw this, but Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is leaked. Cover art, box art, PlayStation, PSN descriptions. Even the trailer is leaked.
That was already known.
No, it was known it was coming, but now it's official. The trailer's leaked. It's releasing on January 19th, 2024. Yeah. Like they got all the PSN information for this. There's a new roguelike survival mode that is also coming with the game. I wonder if this is going to be a free upgrade or a $10 upgrade, or if they're going to be selling this for $70. It's also a remaster for a game that is came out in 2020, June 2020, I think it was. So not even 4 years later.
The official trailer though.
Yeah, so there's that going on there. So yeah, Amiga GTA 6 if it's free, but they charge per hour playtime, right? Right? To further clarify the thought, I don't want to be in a position where I rush through games trying not to hit the next payment tier. Yeah. So
True.
The Game Awards will obviously we'll be doing an Xbox show like right after that, right? Like Xbox 2, the Game Awards is on looking at the calendar, it's on the 7th, and we have obviously Xbox 2 on the 8th. Do we think we're going to see anything from Xbox, Jez?
Well, yes. I pretty much know that Xbox is there.
Oh, is this a leak?
I will. Yeah, it's a leak.
Oh, it's a leak. So
I will.
Jez Corden.
But Hang on, I'm caveating this because the
Oh,
last time
none
I
of this
told
caveat shit. Let's go.
I'm
Where's Tom
caveating it.
Henderson? I want Tom Henderson and his keyboard. I want the post up on Insider Gaming within the minute. Jez Corden of Windows
No.
Central on Jez's podcast says
Wait,
that
Rand 419. I'm adding caveats here because the last time I teased stuff coming for a show, everyone was mad at me, and I'm like, "Oh, Jez, it wasn't good enough, man. You know, yeah, the BlizzCon wasn't good enough," and everyone was mad at me. So I ain't teasing nothing. So I'm not telling you if it's going to be good or not. Xbox is going to be at the show, but hey, maybe it's with Candy Crush. Maybe there's a Candy Crush Gears of War crossover coming, and you're going to be shooting candy out of a chainsaw lancer, or it's a mobile game and it's pay to win. So yeah, I'm not saying if it's going to be good or not. So yeah, that's where I'm going with that one. Don't expect it to be good, you people, you mean people. Rand.
So
I'm not telling you a damn thing.
So, but we got Jez Corden confirming that Xbox will be at the Game Awards with something, but who knows what that something is going to be. So where's my Tom Henderson?
And it might be bad.
But it might be bad. But Jez Corden is confirming that they will be there with something. Because last year they weren't there. They weren't there.
Yeah.
But they will be this year.
Well, you've got a theory. You've got a theory about what might be happening at the Game Awards.
I do.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. People say like, oh, it'll be Hellblade 2 or whatever. There's a part of me that says this would be the third time. I just don't see.
No. I wasn't referring to that.
What were you referring to?
You've always said about Baldur's Gate, the Xbox version.
Oh yeah. So Larian did announce that the Xbox version of the game is coming in December, and that they will reveal the date at the Game Awards. I said that. I've been saying that since, before the game even launched. I was like, it's gonna release after they win Game of the Year. Of course it is. Yeah, it's always nice to be right. I don't know when it's gonna release. Like maybe it's like they win and then like the game releases that next week or something. But they also announced like the Ultimate Edition, which is like the 3-disc physical stuff, right? So, yeah. So I don't know, like as far as what Xbox could show at the Game Awards, your guess is as good as mine. Maybe they do Perfect Dark. I just would find it weird if Hellblade 2 showed up there for a third time. I'm trying to think of a game that showed up 3 times at the Game Awards, and I'm struggling to think of something.
So it's time for everything, right?
I guess there is. I mean, yeah. I don't know. If
they were going to show Hellblade, like you'd presume it was going to be. It was going to be a meteor sort of thing. It wasn't just going to be another cutscene or another. It was going to be more like this is how the game actually plays, because we don't really know that yet, And if Hellblade was launching before E3, not saying it is, but if it was, this is probably one of the last places to really get eyeballs on what could end up being your biggest game of the year, right? No, am I wrong?
Yeah,
Rand.
I mean, there's also now people think that Hellblade 2 may not be coming until like later in the year for 2024, even though we thought it was sort of because like Matt Booty was on a podcast and he sort of talked about some things, and I'll just run these down really quickly. That recently Matt Booty spent time at the Coalition and its software to check up on those projects, see the studios. That it's important to Matt that all these studios connect to each other. And one of the main goals for Xbox Studios is to create a diverse games lineup from small games like Pentiment to big AAAs like Starfield and everything in between, not just focusing on some selected genres. Creativity at Xbox Studios shouldn't be just be a possibility, it should be an inevitability. He says that we have schedules and budgets and all these things, but ultimately it's about the pursue the craft of our studios and make sure that other stuff doesn't stand in the way. That they're on track for 4 big games by first party per year, plus other things in between. We have schedules and budgets. Oh, I already read that. The project a studio takes next isn't about what we need, but what the studio is passionate about. And he sort of like named the games, and he was, he said like Forza And then he said like Aura, History Untold, and Towerborn, and Flight Sim, and then like Hellblade 2. So people thought he was sort of mentioning like the release cadence of the games, which seemed like if that was the case, then maybe Hellblade 2 was further away. But then again, if he's saying they're on track for one big game a quarter, I'm not sure anybody would really say Towerborn's a big game. So I don't know what Xbox's big game for the first quarter of next year would be.
I think Xbox would consider Towerborn to be that.
Well, then they have different
really
expectations of what everybody else considers a big game, because I do not think. I think if we chat, do you think Towerborn is a big game on the level of Hellblade, Avowed, and Perfect Dark and stuff, or is it more like on the level of the smaller stuff that Xbox and Matt talks about here? Because I certainly don't think but then again, I might be biased because I haven't played Towerborn, but to me,
I have played Towerborn.
Towerborn is not a big game, at least not on the level of the other ones.
I think you're going to be wrong. Towerborn.
Maybe I am.
Basically,
I don't know. But
Towerborn is kind of like the dream, like online service version of Streets of Rage. Basically, I think the game's going to be bigger than people think.
Well, Tando agrees with you because he says we don't think it's big, but Xbox does. I guess that's possible. Yeah.
I think it's big, personally.
Mm.
I think you're mean.
Maybe I am. I just don't think so, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. So, because that was the thing, like, to me, it was like, well, if we're on track for a big game every quarter, what's the big game for January, February, March? I do expect Towerborn to launch in that time frame, but it's not something I would say big, but I guess maybe Xbox would. But then it's like, all right, what's the big game for April, May, and June? Microsoft Flight Sim? Man. I don't know. Maybe.
Who knows, man? Maybe it's Candy Crush, third-person shooter.
All right.
They're announcing at the Game Awards.
What else? We got Xbox and AI, Jez.
Dude.
What?
Let's park the AI stuff.
Let's park the AI. Well, we should just mention that Xbox is partnering.
If we get into AI,
yeah, I know.
And then we got two rounds of questions.
We do. I know. I just want to
midnight here right now.
I just want to because
midnight, bro.
It's in the title. I just want to mention Xbox partners. Well, maybe we'll talk about this next week in depth, right? Because it deserves a bigger discussion. And we do. We do got about an hour left, and we got double the Patreon questions to get through. But just for those that don't know, we'll talk about this more next week. But Xbox is partnering with InWorld to build AI game dialogue and narrative tools at scale. And a lot of people are really upset about this. And there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of discussion to be had about AI. So we'll shelve this to next week because there was just too much for us to cover.
Dude, we'll be here all night, and it's midnight.
Because I know you have thoughts about.
I do have thoughts about AI, and I've been talking to people at Microsoft about it to get their take as well. So I do have. It does deserve a little bit more oomph, maybe. So yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
Kotor apparently is dead. At least that's according to the Jeffrey Grubster, the Grub. He basically said on his show that because the CEO of Embracer didn't want to talk about that game, and Grubb said in his show that essentially no studio is working on that game now in any way, shape, or form. So it sounds like KOTOR might be completely dead. Maybe some other studio picks it up, but yeah, it's nobody's working on it right now. So who knows when's it coming? So there's the stuff about KOTOR. There's also been some Xbox leadership promotions because Matt Booty got promoted to I'm in charge of Bethesda and Xbox Game Studios. They needed somebody to run Xbox Game Studios, and Alan Hartman from Turn 10 is now the head of Xbox Game Studios, and Dan Greenwalt is now head of Turn 10. What do you think about that? Did they make the right call there?
That's intriguing. I'm not super familiar with either of those dudes, which is weird, right? Because I've been covering Xbox for a really long time, but I've never really been on the Forza beat. I've always had someone else to do that for me because I'm not into racing game. My co-managing editor at Windows Central, Richard Devine, is a huge racing guy, and he's got a racing license IRL. So I kind of feel like he's the guy who really should be the Forza correspondent, and also Zachary Bodie's also deals with that Forza stuff. So I'm not really clued up on like whether some of this stuff is a good move or not. But it does sound like Matt Booty was, in a position where he needed as much, hands-on people like paying attention to what's going on as possible, because that Redfall stuff slipping through the cracks like it did, I don't think that should have happened.
Hey, they had another Redfall update, and it brought a single sniper with it. So watch
Yeah.
out. Redfall's getting better, one gun at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, please, and subscribe if you haven't to the channel. We got double Patreon questions, so we're gonna start, Jez, and we're gonna try to keep our answers brief because we only have an hour. We might have to actually read some of these questions next week too, but we got about an hour left because I gotta.
There we go.
Because yesterday I didn't. Well, Jez knows, but yesterday I spent 6 hours at the hospital.
Yes, you did.
And there is some other things I have to do tonight. And don't worry, I'm perfectly fine. I was there because my dad had to have somebody drive him home because he was being put under for a procedure, and they don't let people like take the procedure if they don't have someone to drive him home. And I was only supposed to be there for 2 hours. I ended up being there for like 6 or 7 hours. A lot of fun. Good thing I brought a book with me to read. Otherwise, I would have been pulling the hair out of my head. So, Jez, let's go. Ready? Remember, brief.
Yeah.
Brief.
Let's do this.
We got Billy the Brewer. This is from last week. Appreciate all the patrons. Love you guys. Love everybody watching. Hope you're enjoying the show. Billy the Brewer says, with news of Rockstar beginning to announce GTA 6 to the world this week, do we see it on stage at the Game Awards? Do you expect GTA 6 to be the fastest selling game in history? Yeah, I do expect it to be the fastest selling game in history, actually. I do.
Yeah, definitely.
As for it at the Game Awards?
At the Game Awards, though.
I don't think it's going to be there. I guess it could. I did look on the advisory board for the Game Awards, and Rockstar is a part of the advisory board. But there was Rockstar doesn't need the Game Awards. Rockstar can just drop the trailer whenever. And honestly, if Rockstar did drop the trailer during the Game Awards, it would overshadow literally everything from the show. Nobody would care about anything else.
Maybe they don't want it there, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, no, I'm sure Jeff would want it there because the ratings and the viewers would be ridiculous.
Yeah, but maybe no one else wants it to be there.
Yeah, but I can imagine like everybody else is like, no. So no, I would say no. I don't think it'll be at the Game Awards. It'll probably be the following week, I would imagine. That's my guess. Silas says, happy Veterans Day weekend, gents. Have you guys thought of having an Xbox 2 end of the year Game Awards show? We are. We sort of announced it today. You could have tailor-made a unique category such as Hipster Game of the Year, Blandest Food in Starfield, Best Game to Distract from Playing Persona 5, Best Scalebound, Easter Egg, and Redfall. Those are some good categories.
Yeah, speaking of which, Rand, I'm going to have to concede.
Yeah.
I don't think Persona's happening this year, bro.
I get my victory. Yeah, that means you can't play Diablo, Overwatch 2, or World of Warcraft all of 2024.
I'm also not going to follow that. So just deal with it. What are you going to do? Sue me.
Okay.
Sue me. Send me a bill. Get a lawyer.
Okay, fair enough. Omen says, Bethesda finally revealed a test build for Starfield that includes DLS. However, there's one issue. It isn't available for Game Pass owners, only Steam. This isn't the first time this happened either. 343 released their beta builds only on Steam as well. So my question is Microsoft ever going to fix the beta build functionality on the Windows Store? That sounds like a question for you, Jez.
That's a really great question, and I think what I'll do is I'll follow up with Microsoft about that, because you can download the Xbox Insider Hub on Windows, and you can get betas through that. Like you can actually download the beta test for the app, for example, through that. So I suppose it's just what it is really. It's a case of them being like, we'll get more data if we put it on Steam, I think. But I'll inquire about it, and let people higher up know that there is a desire to get that kind of functionality.
Yeah. Not Skywalker says, "Hey Jez and Rand, I know we spoke about this very briefly on Discord, but I'd be curious to hear you expound on what you understand regarding Xbox intentions for bringing traditionally PC-orientated titles to console in the future. Why was Age of Mythology Retold only announced for PC when the past couple Age games have had clever gamepad integrations? Why has Xbox not said a word about R coming to console? Will World of Warcraft to console ever be a reality?" And that was the kind of a thing that the Blizzard had mentioned they do want to bring it to console, right, Jez? Recently, in after
Yeah,
the interviews and stuff, they said that they've thought about it, right? So,
yeah. I mean, they used to be very much no, 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 no. It's not going to happen. It's never going to
but
happen.
now it
Blah blah
seems
blah.
like it
Now
does seem
it's
like it's going to happen.
it's a
And
little bit different now.
he continues on and so on. They've done more on this front than most publishers, but I can't shake the feeling they could do more or at least communicate better with us. Cheers, Aiden.
Yeah, I think with Ara, I think it's just a case of the dev not being big enough, and
Right.
they're working on one platform at a time. And honestly, I would feel the same way about Age of Empires. I don't think Microsoft is investing in that studio being a multi-platform targeting studio out of the gate. I think that's more of a case of them just being like, we'll target PC first and get it right there because that's where the audience is, and then we'll do Xbox later. I think aspirationally, they probably do want to get to a point where someday they can do simultaneous releases. If I had to guess, but these are quite niche kind of games, and we talked earlier in the show about how a horse armor for World of Warcraft outsold the StarCraft expansion, which is kind of depressing when you think about it. So we'll see where it goes. I'll I'll inquire and see what they think about it.
I think it's you nailed it on the head. It's like the development is just PC, and I do think they want to have PC releases to grow PC Game Pass, and then eventually they'll put them on console. Like our History Untold, PC only, and then maybe a year later comes to console. Just like Age of Empires 4 and Age of Empires 2. Probably the same thing with Age of Mythology Retold. Maybe it's just too much to do development of both versions at the same time. They'll just do the one. Nate Miller says, with the Microsoft being out on the COD annual strategy and whether it's able to continue, do you hope or think this Microsoft will move on to analyze sports games? The only one that annually gets reviews is my beloved MLB The Show and has plenty of annual problems as well. I mean, people have been talking that for a while about why is there a new NBA 2K? Why is there a new Madden? Why is there a new MLB The Show? Couldn't it just be an update? But then again, they sell millions of copies every single year at $70 now. So it's one of those things where they don't want to do that. They don't want to give up all that. So
people buy it. People buy it. That's the reason why it keeps happening is because people buys it. So
but the Microsoft has been on that for a while. It's not like it's like people suddenly are like, what? People have been saying that for years about the analyzed sports games. Achievement says, do you think Xbox top brass are reevaluating not investing in Remedy and giving back the Alan Wake IP? Seems like a huge miss they probably didn't see coming. I doubt it.
Well,
I don't think so.
I doubt it. And man, I doubt it because I don't think Alan Wake's gonna sell super well, to be quite honest with you.
I don't think it will.
It's not on Steam. It's never gonna be on Steam.
Never gonna be on
Epic
Steam.
owns it.
Yeah.
It's not at retail. It's never gonna be at retail, probably. So I think the margin, I mean, it's given some prestige to Epic Games, and props to Epic Games for actually doing it. But is that game no microtransactions, no Steam launch, no retail version? Is that game going to break even? I mean, if they've said it's breaking even, I haven't heard whether it is or not.
They haven't announced any sales figures as far as I know.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great game and I love that it exists, but is it the kind of game that Microsoft really, would lose sleep over? I'm not sure, but could be wrong.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think they're reevaluating it. Like, it seems like Remedy just also moved their free-to-play co-op shooter into a premium game as well. Their relationship. I also think like they were doing their relationship during a time where the business was different. Maybe it'd be completely different if like Quantum Break and Alan Wake happened now, with under the Game Pass and under Phil and everything, versus when it was under Matric and under all the failure of the Xbox One, when you had Quantum Break reviewed as reviewed because on the platform rather than the game, right? Like Polygon mentioned. And also, I don't know if you remember, but everybody bashed Quantum Break for its reconstruction technique because the game was like 720p reconstructed to like 1440p or whatever it was, and people destroyed that game for that.
I remember that.
But Alan Wake 2 does a similar thing where it's like 900p reconstructed to whatever it is, and people call it like a technical achievement, a marvel. And I sort of feel like that's kind of the Xbox tax in a way. When the game did it in the past, it was like, oh my God, 720p, blah, blah, blah. But then like the game does it again, but now because it's multi-platform and it's sort of, been like, oh my God, look how amazing it is. If you go back and remember, if anybody's been around this long, you remember the whole Quantum Break 720p reconstruction debacle. But you didn't hear anything about Alan Wake being reconstructed from whatever resolution it was. Mm-hmm. Governor Grimm, Jez, you went back and forth on if Blizzard needed to be acquired in order to get itself back in shape. So with that said, now that they've restructured Blizzard management so Blizzard is no longer answering to Activision, I don't know if that's true. That's not true, is it, Jez? Blizzard no longer answers to Activision? I mean,
it's not
it's implied that maybe that's going to be the case, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's true right now, but I've kind of been hinted at that it might be the case early next year. So the proof will be in the pudding, because a lot of Blizzard games have a lot of problems. Overwatch has problems. World of Warcraft still has problems, even though it's in a good state overall. Diablo certainly has problems. So it remains to be seen if, what impact changing Activision and getting rid of Activision as the sort of the arbiter of what they do. It remains to be seen what kind of impact that will actually have in real terms. But it can't be worse. It's probably like the best way of putting it. I think we've already seen. I think things have already improved at Blizzard after I think at some point Activision kind of realized we can't just keep asset stripping Blizzard forever, and all the cultural problems they had, and it was kind of like a wake up call. It was like, we bought this studio, we bought these IPs, and we kind of wasting it by not giving them the respect that they deserved, or the legacy or whatever. I do think Activision already had a wake up call about Blizzard, because it does feel like the investment's there now where it wasn't before for a long time. But yeah, I'm interested because Phil did say at BlizzCon, we want to make Blizzard as the best it can be. And like, what does that mean, Phil? I want to know what that means. It sounds nice and it sounds flowery, but what does that mean in real terms? Oh yeah, I'm optimistic though. And most Blizzard people that I've spoken to are also optimistic.
I saw a meme about you. People were talking about like you saying that Xbox will have something at the Game Awards, but the memento thing where it's like a Polaroid picture of the guy, and then it's like, don't believe his lies. People like have a pic, so it's a picture of you in the Polaroid, and it's like, don't believe his lies. That's funny. That's funny. That's good. Okay, we got CJ saying happy Friday, gents. Following up for my question the other week about Microsoft rewards, it seemed Jez was right that the good times wouldn't last with the achievement points, quest points being slashed. My question is, I've seen a fair amount of backlash to the change. Do you think it will be enough for Microsoft to revert it back to 50 points? I've seen a lot of sentiment that the new amount has made people think the quests just aren't worth it anymore.
No, they're only interested in what value it can bring to Bing at the end of the day. It's never been a charity. The whole point of it was Bing, make Bing better, get Bing more data. And, has it achieved that? In some ways it has, but I think the balance for them is like we're giving way too much away on Xbox right now when really this is supposed to be about Bing, guys. So yeah, we'll see. I don't think that it'll get better. I only think it's gonna get worse, and I think eventually it'll go away. Honestly.
Hmm. Let's see what else we got here. We got Ryan Kipple saying, "Hey guys, what is your interest in the Shadow of the Tree Elden Ring DLC? I'm personally really hyped for it. Game Awards trailer, maybe? Yeah, I mean that could be a good position for the Game Awards trailer. It's supposed to come out next year, I think. I'm not that interested in DLC in general. I haven't done the Separate Ways DLC for Resident Evil 4 yet, although I think I should. I think I will. I mean, I loved Elden Ring. Would I play this DLC? I guess it depends on whatever else is coming out around that time. Jez, did you see that Dragon's Dogmas 2 is coming out in March to like 22nd?
Yeah, I did. And there's a big presentation coming from Dragon's Dogma 2. I really like I love Capcom and I love Monster Hunter, but Dragon's Dogma kind of passed me by. And like I went back and started playing it recently, like this year actually, because of Dragon's Dogma 2. And the game has like such a fandom and it kind of like it looks like the kind of game I'd like. And I've been playing it and it is really, really cool. It's really strange. But I think that game's gonna be massive. I think it's gonna be really massive. Like
I mean, it's coming out at a good point in time. Yeah, so Sierra 01 Kevin, hey guys, this week was the 1-year anniversary of Forge mode being added to Halo Infinite. It continues to evolve and is becoming the backbone of the game, or a backbone. Do you feel games as a service games lean enough into tools like Forge? It seems like a good way for developers to lower risk to adapt new game trends with such long development cycles. Also leverage community creativity to perhaps find a new trend, almost like a mod community. Thoughts? I mean, they do. I mean, Fortnite has their own Forge. And apparently, that's one of the reasons for the downturn in revenue in Fortnite. So yeah, I mean, I could say Apex Legends doesn't have that, or Rainbow Six Siege, but I think the ones that have that sandbox do. So, I mean, does it make sense to have a Forge-like mode in Rainbow Six Siege? Probably not, and maybe not for Apex, but it makes sense in Fortnite. It makes sense in Halo. The ones I think the games that can do it are doing it. It's just I don't, in Roblox. The whole Roblox is make your own content, right? So
I honestly think in Siege it makes a lot of sense.
Does it?
Make your own. Yeah, I think so.
Make your own maps
buildings
or something. Maybe.
Yeah, make your own maps. Like
Yeah,
Unreal Tournament. Yeah, I'm just sort of going back to my Unreal Tournament days. Like we barely played on the standard maps in Unreal Tournament. There was so many like custom maps with custom stuff in it. Like when I was a kid, I remember there was this map called. I think it was called Beta Funnel, and it was just like a single corridor with no cover, and everyone had the Redeemer, infinite ammo. It was ridiculous, So you just spawn in and die, and spawn in and die. It was just incredible. It was so hilarious. But those kind of memories and being able to break the game is kind of like compelling, and I think it worked really well in that actually, but who knows if they'll do it.
Well, plus like those sort of that sort of content is also great to kind of bridge the gaps between officially released content. Like, oh, the community is going to make stuff while we're actually working on official stuff, right? So it fills the gaps there. Trickstar for Trey says, "Hey guys, hope you're having a good day. This is one for Jez. My wife wants to go to Ireland and the England next year. I need something to distract me during the flight. So new Steam Deck or ROG Ally? I have Epic, Game Pass, and Steam accounts."
Man, it's kind of tough. I haven't tried the new OLED Steam Deck, but I did have a regular Steam Deck, and the specs are basically the same. I think like you get a little bit slightly more juice out of the new OLED. They did change some internals, but mostly it's the same system. But the thing about the Steam Deck is it's got a much better experience overall because the operating system is designed to be run on a handheld, So actually using it and navigating around is a lot easier than it is on the Ally, which is a full PC. It's a full-blown PC, and using Windows with touch is a pain. It's a real pain in the ass, especially if there's a game where you have to type something, for example. it's a nightmare to open the touch keyboard and try and, key in stuff, because whereas on the Steam Deck, it will pop up with the keyboard because it knows it's expecting a text input. But on the Ally, the touch keyboard will open up behind the game, for example. So the Ally can be irritating, but the Ally it is way more powerful. So if you're on a flight or something and you can plug it in, you will get way more performance and better visuals and all that kind of stuff. And also, it's a lot lighter than the Steam Deck and less bulky, so I find it easy to travel with. I personally prefer the Ally just because it's not a pain to get PC Game Pass on it. But if you've got a lot of Steam games you play and you don't want to play like the super high-end stuff, you don't mind compromising playing at 720p, Steam Deck's a really great option and it's significantly cheaper. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I recommend both of them. They're both great systems.
Yeah, and for anybody that doesn't know, Steam just announced the OLED version, which I think sold out.
Yeah.
So yeah. Johnny Six says, "Hey, Rand and Jez, do we know if the physical Xbox Live 1 month and 3 month cards will be replaced at retailers with Game Pass core cards? I can't remember if it's a 1-to-1 conversion. I actually don't know. Jez, do you know anything about that?
I honestly don't know, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not
No
sure. I have
clue.
no idea. I'm sure maybe somebody in chat might know. Good old Collingwood says, "Happy birthday to the Series console. On its 3rd anniversary, how do you feel the Series consoles are going? Are they living up to the promise, or are they still ground to make up?" I mean, are we talking about performance-wise? I mean, I guess it depends on what you expected from performance. Did you expect it to do better than every PlayStation game? Then if you did, then no, it's not living up to that. Are you talking about sales? Is it living up to what you thought it should do with X and S? I would say probably not, considering they have an expensive version and like a cheap version, and it's behind the Xbox One at this point. So I would say no. I expected more consoles sold, but then for whatever reason last year you couldn't get a Series X, and they also had the stock problems for the first year. So I say performance wise for me, it's lived up to expectations for the most part. Most every game it plays at 60 frames outside of a couple handful. Games look great, games run great. And, VRR on the TV that I have, makes it so you don't really see any dips. As far as like sales wise, I would say I wasn't expecting it to sell less than the Xbox One, I guess. Lazar Wolf says, "Hey guys, what's your favorite cut of steak?" Mine's medium rare. Jez?
Oh, I thought he wanted cut.
I mean, I don't know. Is that a cut? I don't know. Oh, I don't know.
That's how you cook it.
Yeah, well, cooking it medium rare. Cut?
Rump, baby. Give me some rump.
I like tri-tip. I remember I had tri-tip for the first time and I loved it. I'm trying to think of the one
I've never had that.
I'm trying to think of the one I always have, or
one
one we always get. Like, I forget the name of it though. Beef tenderloin, maybe? Is it beef tenderloin?
Tenderloins, of course.
Tenderloin is really good. Yeah. Radimus Cisco says, "Hello. I hope both are having a good day. I have a hot take. Consoles have become so powerful that most devs don't have to worry about optimizing a lot, and because of that, we barely see new tech being used, and graphics performance have basically stayed the same. Even in some cases, performance has gone down, like Jedi Survivor. In most games, we're hitting 30, even with somewhat similar graphics to previous gens in some cases, like the One X. If I recall correctly, even Alan Wake 2's official target was 30 FPS, but they were able to optimize it in time. Just mentioning this because of what happened to BG3, thanks to the need of optimization on the Series S. Do you guys think that that's the case, or do you think a good amount of games this gen have been released as optimized as they could have been in other gens? Not talking about bugs, but about performance and optimization." That's an interesting question. And that's more along the... do I think games have been optimized? I mean, I guess you can make the argument that they haven't been as optimized as they should have been, because there have been a lot of games that have come out sort of broken, especially on PC. So maybe it's the PC versions that haven't been as optimized as they should be.
Yeah, PCs, like... the vast majority of games, pretty much all games, are developed on PCs first, and then ported around. And I think like as PCs have evolved over time, we've gotten to a point where developers are finding it hard to optimize for all the different specs out there. Obviously, developers are artists and they want their games to look as good as humanly possible, and they have the capabilities to do it with the tech that's out there and stuff. But there's a hell of a lot of people who don't have an RTX 4090 who can't run like path traced Cyberpunk and stuff like that, um, or don't have the resources to fully optimize their games across all the different stuff. And City Skylines is a pretty recent good example of a game that isn't optimized very well. I've got an RTX 2070 and 32 gigs of RAM. My laptop's getting pretty old now. I can't remember the processor number off the top of my head, but it's the 2020 Intel chips or whatever. And yeah, City Skylines, I was getting a solid 20 frames per second on City Skylines, something like that. It was stable, but it kind of reminded me of going back to my teens, and playing games at 15 FPS because I, couldn't afford a better computer. But yeah, there's a lot of sort of, I don't know, facets to optimization, and it's hard to fully comment on the reasons why games would or wouldn't be optimized because I'm not a dev, but it depends on like so many factors, art style, resources that the devs have, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, man. I want to say it'll get better over time, but I feel like it hasn't. It's gotten worse,
Hey,
I need
Jez.
to we should get like a technical expert on one Xbox 2 plus one sometime to really go through some of these questions and answer them in
Tom
more
Warren
depth.
just tweeted out, the OpenAI situation is a shockwave when Microsoft is issuing full CEO statements. A statement from Microsoft Chairman and CEO Satya Nadella. What's going on, Jez?
Dude, it's bad. Microsoft share price has crashed as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you can tell this is what shareholders really care about.
Of course. So what is it because Microsoft's at fault? Is it because
Well, it's something. Sam Altman is a weird character. He's been accused of stuff and all kinds of things over the years, and he says controversial things, and he's been criticized quite a lot from a lot of different angles, and it sounds like the board of directors are um not happy with him, and they said that he was not being forthcoming with some of stuff that he should have been telling them about or something. It sounds like a big dramatic mess right now.
their stock price isn't down that much. I mean, it closed at 370, and aftermarket it's down to 366.85. So I mean, it's down.
Down. I mean,
It's down 6. It's down 1.6%. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, but it's like after being, the investors are reacting to it. Is my point.
Well, yeah, of course they are. Either way,
but
we've got more questions, Jazz. Remember, short, concise, because we're almost done with last week's, and we gotta go to this week's, and we gotta get it done
God.
before
We gotta get it done.
before I get out of here. Don Otaku, the Otaku, says Nintendo, the GOAT, is so OP that Bandai Namco is building 2 studios to work exclusively on first-party Nintendo games. Nintendo's essentially acquired 2 studios without lifting a finger, and mostly, if not entirely, funded by a big AAA third-party publisher. As far as I know, this isn't heard of the industry. Now that I'm done bragging about how great the number 1 publisher and console manufacturer Nintendo is, if Xbox was to enter a similar agreement like this with the third-party publisher, who would be the best fit for this? Probably Sega.
Yeah,
Probably
maybe.
Sega. Sega once again was like, "Oh, we're flattered by all the attentions, and we've had a lot. There's a lot of people interested, but we're not selling." Because once again, they were asked about it, and it's like, "Well, yeah. What else do you expect them to say?" But again, they're a publicly traded company, so if somebody does come in with an offer, they do have a fiduciary responsibility to the real owners of Sega, which is the stockholders, to actually, address that, price. So,
Dude.
So I think it would be Sega, or maybe a smaller third-party one. Maybe it would be Embracer. I don't know. Embracer's going through some problems. Maybe it would be I don't know.
I would love to see them. I mean, they're kind of in bed with 11-bit already, but
Yeah, I was
I think
thinking of 11-bit. Yeah.
11-bit is such an up and comer right now. They did just delay Thaumaturge, and I'm actually excited about that because I think like the Thaumaturge, like I played the Thaumaturge demo, and the atmosphere is absolutely on point, but it definitely has some issues, and I kind of feel like there's a lot more potential that could be had in that game if they did, give it more time to bake.
Right.
Um,
So on to this week's questions, Jez. All right. We got Mikey Rivers. Hey, Rand and Jez, what game wins your award for best game without a single nomination in any category at the TGAs? Yes, Jez, even if you didn't beat anything, you can still participate. Yes, Rand, this might be hard to answer for 2023's Trendiest Gamer. Love the pod. Excuse me? What? Beat best game without a single nomination in any category.
Is Diablo nominated for anything?
Yes, Diablo's got 2 noms.
Okay.
I mean, I would say Hogwarts Legacy, probably.
Hogwarts Legacy didn't get a single nomination.
Hogwarts Legacy got nothing. I mean, I would have said Star Wars Jedi Survivor, but that got 2. Cocoon was nominated twice. So off the top of my head, it's probably Hogwarts. It's probably the best game that didn't get a single nomination.
I didn't really play it, so
we know you don't really play a lot of games, Jez. You don't really do a lot of stuff.
Dude, I got like 5. I've got 500 hours in Diablo.
Anything other than Diablo, yes. Silas says, "Hey Jez and healthy Althor, what genre in gaming do you guys think has the most room for growth and evolution? Not so much in quantity, but dramatically bringing new gameplay or features to the genre. Indie, if you can consider indie a genre. I think indie games are the ones that do bring in a lot of new gameplay features and stuff. You don't really get a lot of that from big AAA stuff because they're just scared of doing anything innovative because games are so expensive these days. So I expect like the innovations to come from the indie section, but I'm not sure if that's a genre. But I'll just, for the sake of this discussion, that I'm going to classify it as. Do you have a guess, Jez, or anything? Or do you agree with indie?
Sorry, I was distracted there by this Sam Altman stuff. But
do you agree with indie is will have the most room for growth and evolution, bringing new gameplay? Look, he says what genre in gaming do you guys think will have the most room for growth and evolution? Not so much in quantity, but dramatically bringing new gameplay or features to the genre. I said indie, and I know it's not a genre, but I'm going to classify it as a genre for this.
I'm going to say, well, if Rand's saying indie, which is not a genre technically, I'm going to say user-generated content, but also user-generated content that leverages AI.
Okay.
Which we'll talk more about next week.
Halo is the GOAT says it's being reported the Wonder Woman game is going the games as a service route. Does this lessen your interest in the game? Yeah, there was the whole thing about Warner Brothers and how they wanted to transform their big releases into these big, live service games with microtransactions. And yeah, there's a report that Wonder Woman has maybe some of that in there. Does it lessen my interest in the game? Depends on what it is, I guess. Because I did watch the Suicide Squad stuff. They did a 20-minute demo drop for that. And
what did you think about that? Some people seem quite positive about it.
The traversal looks really fun. The gunplay, I'm a little bit concerned about because it didn't look great. But then again, I was never really too concerned about the games as a service aspect because what was it going to be? New cosmetics that I don't give a flying F about? You know me, I don't care about cosmetics.
Yep.
So to me, it's about
badass cosmetics.
It's about like how's the story, how long is it, and it kind of looked like a lot like Sunset Overdrive meets Crackdown 3 in a way, where like getting around the city looks super cool and could be a lot of fun, but the combat seemed to, I don't know, lack that sort of impact. But I won't know. I mean, I'm going to play it. It comes out February 2nd. But yeah, it did seem, at least to showcase a little bit better than the last time it did. But for Wonder Woman, I guess it depends on what it is. I mean, if basically it's like you could get a red lasso or purple lasso or costumes or whatever, that won't matter to me, But we need to see what Wonder Woman's all about. It'd probably be at the Game Awards too.
I'm not interested in it because
superheroes are cringe. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Ryan Kipple, he says, "Hey guys, what's your interest level in the Oh, he already said this from last week. But yeah, we already answered it. I'm not really interested in DLC, but I do love Elden Ring, so I'll probably check it out depending on what else is coming out.
I still need to finish the base game, so I'm interested in it from a scientific point of view, but for myself, I need to finish the base game first someday.
Omen says Redfall and COD currently have the exact same Metacritic of 56. Do you think the latest COD is as bad as Redfall?
It's a question for you, Rand.
Well, I did finish COD. I didn't finish Redfall because Redfall was pretty bad. Although I haven't gone back to Redfall since the 60 FPS patch, and I'm not sure I ever will because I'm not interested in playing Redfall, so that should tell you how I feel. I guess part of it's because COD's only 4 hours long. That's tough to say because I also, from the 5 or 6 hours I played of Redfall, I wasn't enjoying it. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not surprised by the score COD has because like I said, the highest I'd give it is a 6. So I guess, yeah, I guess the answer to that question is yeah, because I think I did say Redfall would be like mid 5s for me. So yeah. Chiefman says, do you think Game Pass saw an increase with the closure of Stadia? Have you heard anything about how Stadia closing affected the cloud market? No, I don't think it increased.
I doubt Stadia was even like blip.
Yeah.
On anyone's radar. Stadia was tiny. It was so tiny, like it was beyond irrelevant. I think there was like, I don't know, 20,000 Destiny Stadia players ever. That's pathetic. Stadia might as well have not existed. I hate to say it, but it's true.
I'd also mentioned Xbox's big new partnership because we forgot to talk about it, but I'll just mention it now. NVIDIA GeForce and Xbox are partnering up, Jez.
Yeah.
So what's that all about? You can sign up for NVIDIA GeForce and get Game Pass alongside of it or something?
Yeah, so if they're doing a temporary ultimate bundle.
That's a pretty good bundle.
Where you get GeForce Now and PC Game Pass, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think GeForce Now is excellent. Works really, really well. Skips scarily well. It actually feels like witchcraft.
It's almost like the whole deal with Activision Blizzard, because doesn't this have some of that, like where they had the agreements and it was like, oh, you'll get some of the Xbox games. This is kind of like something that came out of the Activision Blizzard regulatory stuff, right?
Potentially, but I kind of feel like it serves Microsoft's purpose anyway. So.
Of course it does, but still.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a pretty good deal. I think that's a big partnership.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, the fact of the matter is, this market is not going to grow without these guys cooperating. And I think this is why like cloud, I believe, is will more likely succeed than VR, because Zuckerberg wants to control all of VR and he won't cooperate with other platforms, and share the wealth, kind of, and similarly, neither does Valve, so they're kind of like treating each other with hostility to some degree. And I don't think Valve's that interested in it. And and then you've got like Sony as well. You got 3 isolated platforms here, whereas like in the cloud market, you've got the biggest players actually cooperating to actually create a market first. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It might just be the laws of physics prevent it from becoming a thing ever. The speed of light only travels so fast.
It only travels so fast, yeah. Johnny Six says, hey, Rand and Jez, I was so used to using my Turtle Beach headset that plugged into the RCA jacks with my 360 that when I used my Xbox One for the first time, I was blown away with hearing the game sound by plugging into the controller. What console feature impressed you over the last 2 gens? Last 2 gens.
That's interesting. I really, really liked the bloody Connect, man. And I'm sorry, I will die. I will die hard on this hill. But the first time I got home from work, and I was gonna say school then, but I was a little bit older. When I got home from work and I had Connect all hooked up and IR Blaster and my TV and all that kind of stuff, I was like Xbox on, and everything turned on. It was before I had an Alexa and it was all that stuff. I was so impressed. It was so cool and futuristic. And that meme with the Batman, the Batman meme, like the dudes in the Batcave and stuff. It was like that. I loved it. I thought it was great. I feel like the current Xbox is not as interesting. It does its job really well, but it's not like the Xbox One was like something unique and interesting and special in a way.
With the Kinect, it was garbage.
Yeah, I know that's your take, right?
Hey,
but
not just
I like,
my take.
I like
it was
technology.
literally the market's reaction to it as well. So,
well, the market's stupid. They also,
but
didn't like
what would be
Windows
my
Phone.
choice for this? I think it's the VRR implementation on the console. Remember, because Microsoft started doing it with the Xbox One.
Oh, right.
Because the TV manufacturer started doing it, and I think that's probably the best feature because you can have it implemented and never see a frame drop and never have any screen tearing, and it's all because of the TV and the console working together. And
that's pretty cute.
It's pretty goddamn awesome, especially when you're coming from like the 360, where you would have frame drops or you would have screen tearing up the wazoo on Xbox One games or whatever. To basically have it non-existent now is pretty damn awesome. Good old Colin Wood says, hello, Rand and Jez. I hope you're better, Rand. I am doing better. Jez, while doing some searches about the jury for the Game Awards, I found out that the intestinal journal of news, Metro UK, is one of the media outlets that determine the winners of the Game Awards. My question, have you ever met a journalist from a gaming website such as Metro UK, Eurogamer, or PC Gamer? And if you have, what did you talk about? If not, what would you like to ask him or her?
Yeah, I've never worked for any game journalism site. I've only worked for tech sites. Well, I've only worked for Windows Central, really. But I do speak to people who, because Future's a big publisher, and we own PC Gamer, we own Games Radar. I think, like, I don't know. I don't speak to a lot of game journalists, like I say, generally speaking. And the ones that I have wanted to speak to, I've been lucky enough to speak to them, Like we just did a show with Paul Tassi, and Paul Tassi's awesome, and so someone as close to legit as you can be in this business, I think. And working at covering the beat at Forbes and and stuff like that. I don't know what I'd want to ask someone, because one of my weird things about the way I approach work is I don't want to be influenced by others, so I kind of like try and work in isolation. I don't read other people's reviews and stuff like that. Maybe that's a mistake, I don't know, but I generally just keep to myself and don't really get involved. I'm a loner. I'm all alone. Forever alone.
Forever alone.
Forever alone.
Okay, we got Luke Spook says, hey gents, so if you guys were to run a Game Awards show, how would you do it? Who judges? What are the categories? How are games judged? Metacritic sales numbers, playing time, judges' opinion, or public vote?
I think the best way is to have industry figures, really. Who are doing it on a voluntary basis. I mean, in a perfect world, you'd be able to get them to play all the games too and do that stuff, but it'd be so time consuming. Like, could you really imagine, like, sitting down, anyone really who's not into Souls-like games and saying to them, okay, in order to discuss whether or not Elden Ring's eligible for Game of the Year, you have to put 150 hours into this genre that you don't like. I think this is the issue really with any of these award shows, is like they're always going to be imperfect in some way, and I suppose like you have to sort of try and just approach it in the best possible way. but clearly, like from our discussion earlier about the Game Awards, there's a lot of issues with the Game Awards, and like the fact that they've got overlapping categories, and the fact that like all the Game of the Year winners share a category with like one game that isn't nominated for Game of the Year and stuff like that. Those are, you'd think those would be easy fixes, but I think like the issue is that it's not about the Game Awards and making them fair or making them good. It's about the trailers, and the Game Awards themselves are just kind of incidental. So I think this, at the very start, you need to actually, the point of the awards would have to actually be the awards and not the trailers, But how
Yeah.
do you fund that then? And it becomes a big kettle of fish. Wait, that's not can of worms. Kettle of fish. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm getting sleepy now, man. It's 1 a.m.
We're almost done.
Kettle of fish.
I mean, maybe you should have like
where does that come from?
50-50 between critics and players. But I do like the idea of maybe the DICE Awards being in like growing, because that's like the community of game developers and stuff, and that would be more 1-to-1 to the Oscars. So,
but no one wants to watch that.
I know no one does. So that's why Jeff does it, and it's why it's peppered with trailers, because that's what gamers want to see.
It's also how he funds it.
Yeah, I know.
It's with respect to Jeff, like without the ads, the show wouldn't make any money. In which case it couldn't exist.
People like the show because year after year, more and more people watch it, so it is pretty popular. Yeah. Governor Grimm says, "Hey guys, question number 2. The gaming community wants bigger, more polished, and expensive experiences, but doesn't want the increasing costs that are associated with the increased scope. Xbox using AI is bad, crunch is bad, increasing costs are bad, longer development times are bad. We've had Mr. Layden, Phil Spencer, and others talk about the increasing costs and sustainability of the current AAA model. What options do you guys see as viable solutions?" Well, I mean,
it's a tough question.
I think like standalones are an option. Like the like what Naughty Dog did with like The Last of Us, or Uncharted Legacy, Lost Legacy, where it's a sequel but it's a standalone, but it's not nearly as big as the other game. It's almost like DLC positioned as a full release. And I sort of think that's what Sean Layden was talking about, more experiences like that. Because there definitely is a problem. And how do you fix that problem? But gamers want more. They want better looking games. They want longer games. They want more. But then you're right. They, scoff at the idea of paying $80. But then also the companies are making more revenue and profit than they've ever had. So, but they're still laying people off. I don't know what the answer is. I guess it would be to cut development time. So basically releasing shorter, tighter games. I don't know.
I'm intrigued to know like how well Assassin's Creed Mirage did, because that is that, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
experience.
An MPD, it was like number 4 or number 3, I think. Obviously, I don't think it sold as well as Valhalla, but I mean, the budgets are probably completely different. Well, actually, from what I remember reading, that game started as DLC for Valhalla, and then they just made it into its full release. Can AI help with that and reduce costs on some of this stuff? Maybe. But yeah.
And then you think about how much the servers are going to cost, for AI. Like the problem is capitalism. Really. That's the true answer. Is perpetual. Yeah. Everyone wants more. Everyone wants more money. Everyone wants more quality. Everyone wants more convenience. Everyone wants more. And that's the conflict. Is like, how do you make all of that work together and reconcile the different forces that are pulling in different directions? Because that's where we're at ultimately. But yeah, it's a big discussion.
We got 3 more questions, Jez, and we got 10 minutes. Less than 10 minutes. So we got Save Scum Goblin. Hey, Jez and Rand, hopefully you're feeling better. I am, thank you. I wanted to ask, has there been any updates on the achievement system lately? If not, hopefully one of you could ask someone over at Xbox about unattainable achievements. With Fable 4 inching
What a
closer,
terrible achievement.
I wanted to 100% the previous titles, but there is an achievement in Fable 1 that unlocks using the Xbox Smart Glass that is no longer supported. Yeah, like, you know, when games have achievements for multiplayer, but the servers are down, so you can't get that. He's saying there's an achievement in one of the Fable games that requires Smart Glass, but obviously Smart Glass doesn't exist anymore, so it's impossible to get that achievement.
Yeah, I don't think that they're ever going to fix that. Being completely honest with you, it's not a priority, and it doesn't help. Achievements don't help Xbox grow, you know, by themselves. And I think, like, personally, I think like cool features like achievements do help Xbox grow. But the way corporations operate is like, how can I represent that in a spreadsheet? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and if it can't be represented in a spreadsheet and reported on, then this current Microsoft that we're in right now, um, sadly, it's not a priority for them, and I think that's a shame because I think a lot of the innovation that we used to get from Xbox, um, you know, and I've written about this that I feel like Xbox relies way too much on data and telemetry and not enough on human intuition, and I think like developing the achievement system is a victim of telemetry because they probably got telemetry that says people don't really care about achievements, you know. But I think people actually do care about achievements. It just doesn't show up well on a spreadsheet. That's my gut instinct. But a responsible corporation's got to, you know, have a report for everything. You know, it's yeah, it's another big discussion, I guess. But if you want to get more achievements, everyone just needs to campaign for it. You know, everyone here watching this right now, you want more achievements. The only thing that's gonna make Microsoft add achievements is if everyone worked together to force them to do it. Because otherwise, they just never gonna do it. You know, because to them, not enough people care about it. That's their thought process. Is
Mm-hmm.
that not enough people care about it?
Yeah. We got Don Otaku saying, do you ever see NXL Obsidian getting a chance to work on a AAA Wasteland 4 Pillars of Eternity 3 after the success of Baldur's Gate 3? Also, Wasteland 3 got snubbed and overlooked in 2020. The game should have got at least half the praise and renown that BG3 has gotten or is getting. It's still one of the best CRPGs out there, and 75% of what BG3 did without early access. I don't know. I don't see them working on a Wasteland 4 Pillars, or especially a AAA version. I know Josh Schroyer was like, yeah, give me $200 million to work on Pillars of Eternity 3. I don't think
Yeah,
that's
it was kind
happening.
of joke.
Yeah.
I personally think like I do think they are going to do a Wasteland 4, and I do think it'll have a bigger budget. Will it be like, you know, on the same sort of the breadth of Baldur's Gate? Probably not, but I do think like they consider that to be a pillar franchise, and I do think they'll do more of them. And I do think it'll have a bigger budget, but maybe not like a huge crazy budget. But hey, who knows? Could be wrong.
And we got
I really like Wasteland.
SJ Dub. Hey fellas, glad to hear you're feeling better, Rand. Thank you. I have a quick yes or no question for Jez. You don't have to leak or hype it, like the Blizzard show. While Xbox technically showed up last year's Game Awards with a couple Game Pass commercials, will Xbox show something in the Game Awards other than a Game Pass commercial?
Man, I kind of answered that during the show, and yeah, Xbox is going to be there, but I don't want to really go.
Too late. You've been slothed.
Yeah, but people will blame me if it's not amazing or AAA banger. So I'm just going to say, have no expectations. But you know, of course, I mean, yeah, they are going to be there. Don't know what they're showing, or I don't know if you'll like what they're showing, but
There you go.
stay tuned.
And with that, that's all the questions. We got them all, Jez, with a couple minutes to spare.
Nice.
So we'll talk
Now I'm
about
going to
the Xbox AI thing next week in more depth. We're working on, we're gonna have the Xbox 2 Game Awards. We'll be doing not next week, but the week after, Xbox Ultimate. Working on guests for December for Xbox 2+1. We want to have like one before the Game Awards and then one after. So we're trying to get some guests line up for that. And you can always sign up at patreon.com/XB2 to sign up to get shout outs or just want to support the show or get access to the podcast and stuff. We appreciate anybody that does, or everybody listening who just wants to have a chill podcast to listen to, whether it's here on YouTube or later on the podcast apps. It's what we're about. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new to the show. We'll be back on Friday next week with another Xbox 2 episode 392, because I think this week was 391. Getting up there, Jez.
291.
291, yeah, 300. 292 or 291. And with that, I hope you guys have a great beginning of the weekend. It's already pitch black by me, and it's like 6 p.m. I love it so much. I love it when it's dark
Weird,
like this.
man.
I am weird. I'm very weird.
You don't season your food. You
I
like
know.
winter darkness. What's wrong with you,
I
man?
do. So, love you guys. And see you next week. Keep it gaming.
Take care, everybody.
Later.
Check out manscaped.com.